Nice occasion.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Timberlane School Board meeting, Thursday, December 7th, 2017. Mrs. Belcher, could you call the roll, please?
Peter Bielo.
Here.
Ryan Boyle.
Here.
Stephanie Doobie. Kim Farah.
Here.
Donna Green. Dan Guide.
Here.
Sue Sherman.
Here.
Gregory Spiro.
Here.
Kelly Ward.
Here.
Seated at the board table this evening is the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Earl Metzler. The presence of other district administrators, as well as the Timberlane Teachers Association officers, will be reflected in the meeting minutes.
Could we all rise, please? First of all, I'd like to have a brief moment of silence. Today is Pearl Harbor Day. Thank you. Greg, could you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Normally, the first person up is a student rep. Mr. Lavoy is, believe it or not, he finds, tonight he's in a play right next door here, I think in Olay, so I can't believe it's a better show than what's going to happen here tonight, but apparently I will support our student rep. He does a great job for us, so I'm sure he's doing a good job tonight. So we're going to delegates and individuals. Laurie Hirschenruder would like to speak to the board.
Thank you. Laurie Hirschenroder, President of the Timberlane Support Staff Union. TSSU has negotiated 3 contracts since 2013, and we have always respectfully considered the taxpayers of our district. The average salary of a Timberlane paraeducator is $17,000 per school year, which is 182 work days. The starting pay for a paraeducator is between $13,200 and $13,888. And for most paraeducators who have been in the district for 20 years or more, the maximum pay is about $21,500 for most. No, we are not paid for holidays, vacation days, or through the summer. Don't be fooled, there's no empire being built by us. Instead of recognizing the hard work and many years of service from dedicated staff, some are eager for them to retire in droves because their salaries are just too high to maintain. Again, don't be fooled, there's no empire being built by us. I am hopeful the administration and others will offer much more information and explain to the Budget Committee and School Board why a suggested hiring freeze cannot work with paraeducators. Since August 29th of this year, there have been about 20 paraeducators hired. That was about the same number of new hires last year. One cannot presume just because an employee leaves that there is not a need to fill. Since October 30th, there have been 7 para positions posted. These are not just unfilled positions, they identify needs of our students. In trying to comprehend the discussions of the Timberlane School Board and Budget Committee, one can only conclude that at this point, the majority of both are working toward a 2018-2019 budget that is equal to our current operating budget or less. How this could possibly not impact the quality of education delivered to our students. If one is to do the quick math, we've heard that health insurance costs will increase 6.8%. There are contractual obligations for special education, transportation, and our unions. A surplus of approximately $2 million is needed for emergency purposes, and as everyone knows, buildings require maintenance and need to meet safety requirements. And somehow, with all of this considered, we are to continue to deliver the best education we can to our students with less. And as it relates to the surplus, most of it is returned to the taxpayers as an offset of taxes and cannot be spent without a vote of a majority of the school board. We know the impact. There won't be a choice but to evaluate programs offered. There won't be a choice but to increase class sizes. There won't be a choice but to reduce staff or in the least enact a hiring freeze. We are more than a number on a piece of paper. We are more than warm bodies, as we have been referred to. We are dedicated professionals who are public school proud, who will not be shamed for fighting for our students. We have never hidden behind a cloak, and we will continue to wear our blue proudly. We are Timberlane proud. We will stand up for our students. We will stand up for our colleagues. We will stand up for excellence. We will stand up for our community's future. Please support public education. Thank you.
Ryan Richmond?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ryan Richmond, President of the Timberlane Teachers Association. I speak tonight, again, in defense of the greatest aspect of our democracy, the public education institution of Timberlane. I speak to address some of the misleading and inaccurate statements made by elected officials at the November 30th joint meeting between the school board and the Budget Committee. 1, that the drastic cuts proposed are not drastic. Yes, they are. Cuts to a school budget of this magnitude will have a devastating effect on educational, social, and experiential opportunities afforded to the children of these 4 towns. Whether it be because there is no longer funding for opportunities, or because the human being that advises a group is cut, or because a program is eliminated in order to pay for these cuts, there is no logic to suggest that Timberlane will not be affected by millions being cut from its operational budget. Number 2, that staff reductions can be accommodated through retirements or attrition alone. This statement is not rooted in practice. Attrition needs to be a long-term, well-thought-out program so as not to affect the services provided by the district. No one in this room can confidently predict or assure that the right number of professionals in the right positions will retire at the end of the 2017-2018 year. That is compounded by the reality that teachers are certified to teach particular subjects at particular levels. A 4th grade teacher cannot be moved up to the high school if they are not certified by the state to teach at that level. One also cannot expect that reductions will not impact programs. If 5 English teachers retire at the high school, you will need to replace them or face a devastating impact on our English program. If an elementary principal retires, that building cannot function without leadership. Number 3, that Timberlane can adequately function with a reduction of nearly 80 professionals. This shows a lack of understanding of the work that professionals in this district do. One must be very careful when comparing Timberlane to any other district. Our student population, cooperative district model, and demographics make us unique, requiring unique solutions to our challenges. If one were to say, compare us to a district that is far more privileged than our population, one must also make note that teachers in said district are paid $3,000 more per year than at Timberlane, which currently sits at the bottom 3rd in relation to teacher pay scale. And number 4, that these are just scare tactics. This could not be further from the truth. These are real possible outcomes of a drastic reduction in funding for a school district. These well-intentioned but misguided decisions have been made in other districts, and the consequences are real. Substandard education, loss of populations, and reduction in home values. You are the stewards of this district. Your primary charge, as is ours, is the education of the children of the 4 towns. The decisions that you make as a body over the next few weeks will have direct impacts on people's lives. The people I represent, the people you represent, and the students that we are pledged to serve are depending on you to make the right decisions. Be public school proud. Be Timberlane proud. Thank you.
Arthur Green.
Thank you, Mr. Boylan, School Board. I've been working to my utmost for the last 4 to 5 years to do my best to save public education in Timberlane from itself and from its seemingly unstoppable urge to go past any bounds of affordability for the residents of this district. We've, over the last 10 years, our enrollment has gone from 4,600 to 3,500. We're down 1,100. That's 23%. At the same time, our budgets are up 25%. But that doesn't tell the full story. With the reduction in the number of pupils, our per pupil cost is skyrocketing. In 2008, we budgeted $12,300 per pupil. This year that we're in now, 10 years later, $20,180 per pupil. Why is that? It's because while our enrollment is down 3.2%, our staffing has hardly changed. 10 years ago, we were at 698 full-time equivalent staff. This year, 676. That's down like 20 staff on 798. That's 3.2%. That's why we're facing the difficulties we are. The school board is apparently this year, and the budget committee, making an earnest effort to try to come to grips with the budget problem. The analysis that I've published shows that school for school in high-performing districts, we're severely overstaffed, and that if we look at districts like neighboring towns like Salem, like Bedford, like Londonderry, like the other comparably sized school districts and comparably sized schools, we could feasibly identify cuts of almost 100 staff. Now that's not 100 teachers. That would be, by my reckoning, 36 teachers, 18 and a half educational aides, and 42 administrative, other professional, and other support staff, total 96.9. Now that's feasible. I'm not saying we should cut that many, but what I am saying is that we could, without difficulty, cut in the range of 40 to 50 staff to achieve the kind of overall budget impact that would help the affordability of this district. And in making those cuts, would they be draconian? Would we be going to some kind of Dickensian dystopia? No. We'd still be better staffed at the high school level than Bedford. We'd still be better staffed at the middle school level. Also, sorry, what's my middle school comparison? Middle school comparison, Bedford Middle School. We'd still be better staffed for the number of students in Bedford Middle School. Our elementary schools would still be better staffed than the comparative schools that I've pointed to in our neighboring towns, Salem and Londonderry. So there's no question that we could deliver education. There's no question that we could deliver quality education. Bedford and Salem both do better than Timberlane at the broad-based, standardized exams at the grade 11 level that show the end result of our educational system. If we want to take budgets seriously, we have to come to grips with staffing. 3 years ago, I did an analysis in terms of high-level metrics that showed that we were overstaffed, grossly overstaffed, compared to similar school districts. This year, using a completely different methodology, matching school for school, looking at the staffing models in those schools, I've come to almost the same numbers. So I'm going to urge the school board and encourage them to take the problem seriously and to demonstrate that we, the residents, can deliver a quality education in this district at a cost that the residents can afford. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine Collins.
Good evening. My name is Christine Collins, and I'm a resident of the town of Danville, but I'm here tonight as a parent and as of the president of the Timberlane Music Association. I'm just going to read my statement so that I can make sure I hit all my points. So the Timberlane Music Association is a 78-member group whose mission is to support the 333 high school music students, the 877 middle school music students, and all of the staff of the Timberlane Music Department. I'm here tonight for several reasons, and I understand that you will be discussing the 2018-2019 school budget and determining what your recommendations will be for the Budget Committee. Before that happens, I just want to give you some information that may have been brought before you before the board in the recent past. Year after year, Timberlane has significantly higher numbers of musicians that attend the all-state ensembles at the high school level and attend the New Hampshire Band Directors Association ensembles at the middle school level. Last year, we had 3 Timberlane musicians that were invited to the All-Eastern Music Festival. And just this last month, we had a Timberlane vocalist who was invited to attend the All-National Honors Choir Assembly in Florida. We also had a runner-up from Timberlane who was asked to stand in case somebody couldn't attend. That's a national level honor. Timberlane music is known throughout the region at the high school level and college level as one of the best music programs in the state of New Hampshire. That's an amazing honor as well. I would also like to share some 2016 SAT statistics regarding Timberlane students that Mr. Bilo gathered, and I feel are very, very telling. In 2016, the junior music students outperformed the non-music students that took their SATs. The average music student, their SAT average was 1195. The non-student was 995. Further statistics show that musicians who are also athletes had an SAT average of 1249. The non-music athletes, or the non-athletic students, had an average of 961. Personally, I have 2 children, one who graduated and one is a freshman in high school, both musicians, both athletes, both proud members of Timberlane. My son graduated last year with amazing opportunities because of the programs that he participated in while he was here at Timberlane. The programs, the teachers that he had opportunity to engage with and have experience with. I want the same opportunity for my daughter and for all of the other Timberlane students who are coming now and after them to continue to have these opportunities that this amazing district is providing. Lastly, you will hear shortly about the PAC and about the sound mitigation. And I believe that this is a topic that this board has heard before. And as a concerned parent, I must tell you that my daughter has reported to me leaving the band room with ringing in her ears. That is a sign of damage, hearing damage. She's one of 333 students that go into that building at the high school. And again, 877 middle school students. That's over 1,000 kids that use those rooms that you're going to possibly cut money from to fix the problem. Please, I'm asking you to keep all of these kids, these outstanding kids, in your mind when you are going through and making these decisions regarding the budget, because it will affect every one of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to know where those statistics came from. Mrs. Collins, the musicians versus non-musician SAT stats, are those specific to Timberlane that you cited?
Yeah, I borrowed them from Mr. Bilo. He has them on slides.
They were shared with curriculum and assessment last year. I actually helped them do the analysis. That's why I was involved. I do some statistical analysis.
Problem with that. I found your presentation very interesting and very useful. Thank you. I thought SAT scores were supposed to be anonymous.
Okay, well,
I did too.
all right,
They were.
thank you. Okay. Next order of business. I think it'll be a little lighter in the room here for this. We get the privilege here to recognize our state champions. So, who is here?
Angelo.
Angela. That we have, yes, I understand. So we have, I understand these girls are back-to-back state champs, which is, I think that's, can't be done too often.
Yes, they are. Thank you, by the
that's
way,
pretty
for giving us an opportunity to acknowledge our field hockey program. And Mr. Boyle is correct. They are back-to-back state champions. This is just another one of our programs that really exemplifies excellence. They've had a great season. They are a great program. I do want to, while I have the microphone, publicly thank the coaching staff, Coach Ryan, and her assistants for the work that they do with our kids. And before I announce their names, and they'll come up, they know the drill. They're pretty good at this. But before I announce their names, I also wanted to give you one other piece. Not only did they win the Division I state championship for the second year in a row, but they were also voted #1 in sportsmanship in Division I field hockey. And what that entails is at the end of every season, each school votes on sportsmanship, and they vote on different categories. They vote on coach behavior, player behavior, fan behavior, school climate. And once again, the Timberlane field hockey program took #1 honors in both departments this year. So we're very, very proud of them, and I know you are too. So thank you for allowing us just a few moments. And we do have a few kids that couldn't be here tonight, but I'll still announce their names as they go, and they're going to come right down and through, if that's okay with you, and shake your hands, if that's okay. And the certificates are, I'm sorry, is this? Coach Ryan here? Yes, she is. Oh, okay. Yes, they're in order, so Coach Ryan, Coach Ryan's back there. Yeah, so anyway, is that okay to do that? Is that?
Absolutely,
I'm
great.
sorry, I didn't mean to. So our first athlete is Molly Ankoviak. Sarah Pickowicz. Emily Lisi could not be here tonight. Captain Victoria Rothwell. Jessica Mosquita. Lily Fay could not be here tonight.
Congratulations.
Shannon Duffy. Emily Heffernan. Rachel Paradis. Kylie Simmons. Kylie Fitzpatrick. Sydney Cochran could not be here tonight. Tess Priest. Morgan Fabrizio. Emma Lannon and Samantha Hamilton could not be here tonight. Sarah Padalaro. Captain Taryn McKinnon. Megan Query. Team manager Alexandra Casmay. Head coach Mim Ryan. Assistant coach Heather Roy. And assistant coach Christine Zubkis.
Thank you, Heather, working with the girls. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks for working with the girls.
Again, I just want to thank you for allowing us a few moments to acknowledge the young ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelo, and again, that's obviously something that that team will carry with the rest of their lives, and it's quite a thrill, you know. I'm sure people be back-to-back state champs, and like I said, I'm sure that doesn't happen too often, so fantastic. Mrs. DeOtis, can you help me out here? We have an Atkinson Grange plaque. Are you going to help us with this, or what?
Yes. Carol is in here. She didn't come.
I don't think Carol's here.
Okay.
So that's what, it's okay. So I'm figuring between you and I, a couple of Atkinson nights, we can make this happen.
I guess we're here tonight to have you accept a plaque from the town of Atkinson to honor the Grange, the town Grange that used to be in the same site as the Atkinson Academy many years ago. Mrs. Grant came to me. She's a member of the Historical Conservation Society, and she came to Brian and I and asked if we could put a plaque on the site of where the Old Town Grange was. We kind of figured that it could go on one of the big stones on the side of the parking lot. That's kind of where we figured it was. So I guess we're asking if it's okay with you if we put the plaque there.
Yeah, this was basically just to share with the board, historically, this was Atkinson property, and then years ago, there was a swap.
Right,
and
the swap.
And it became school property way back.
Between
So
the police
now-
station,
now that
this, the
it's-
police station now used to be the old Rockwell School.
Now that it's school property, obviously it's come in front of the board so we can preserve that for history, recognizing the Atkinson Grange.
Make it official.
That's it.
I'll make a motion to accept the plaque from the town of Atkinson for the Grange.
Second.
I have a question. What was the Grange? I know, is it like,
We're both in trouble
a
now.
ci-
This is
it's
really-
a public-
Okay,
a
years
civic
ago,
service
they- yeah.
organization?
So do you want to?
It's
ahead.
historically was farmers
Yeah.
who banded together to, swap equipment sometimes. They'd meet and say, well, I got a thresher and I've got a
Right.
baler and I have a good horse. And, it was,
And they sold their products
they
there.
sold their
and
products there. They'd have, I've got honey and you've got eggs and.
More of an exchange,
Right.
Like an early agricultural co-op
Yes.
or
Yes,
something?
yeah,
Yes.
yes.
They'd give recipe, I mean, when I moved in 45 years ago, it was, they shared recipes. You would go there and you'd have a knitting club or a crocheting club, sewing, quilting.
Yeah, it's a-
Yeah, I mean, it was just a place for people to gather. We didn't have a community center or anything, we had the town Grange.
Yeah.
And at one time, before we even had the town hall, they would use it as a meeting place for everybody. The selectmen would meet there, planning board would meet there, all your officials would gather there. I'm not gonna say we had voting there, but I believe we did have voting there, so,
Did Carol initiate this?
Pardon me?
Just curious, did Carol initiate this? Or-
yes.
She did, okay.
Yeah,
I think so.
I don't think she's that well, so she was,
Yeah.
to come out tonight, so.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
There's a
Ken.
vote on the floor. All those in favor?
Okay.
Unanimous.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, next up on the agenda, program of studies.
Hi.
How
I'm
we
here
doing?
with Mary Woodman, our academic assistant principal, and we're here to seek the approval of the school board for our program of studies. The guidance department, the administrative team, it's the deans and Mary, are all proud of the quality of our course offerings, which represent the highest aspirations of the district as expressed in our district's mission statement, our core values, and our belief statements. Our program of studies provides opportunities for all students to graduate from high school, college, and career ready. There are very few changes to the program of studies this year. The changes you do see reflect a focus on clarity, alignment to district policy, and accuracy. There are no new courses being introduced in this year's program of studies. All the changes have been presented to and discussed with the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee and the Superintendent's Leadership Team. So we are seeking the school board approval tonight because we have to have it in order to get the program of studies to the printer ahead of course selection processes which begin in early January.
Okay, and this, this has gone through
We've had
process.
twice with the Curriculum Assessment Committee and one time with the Superintendent's Leadership Team.
Great. Mrs. Sherman?
I think we need a motion, but before I'll tell you that, there are so few changes. Most of it's a couple of grammar things, a word change that better aligns with a policy or with a course standard. So it's very similar. It's going to be online. There'll be some printed copies, but very few. We want families to be able to connect with it online. My favorite page actually is that worksheet, the diploma planning worksheet. That we put in a couple of years back now, but that's a really good thing for families to use. There's a huge amount of information in here. A lot of the classes have the NCAA marking on them, that say they're kind of a stamp of approval from athletics nationally, almost as if it's accredited with college athletes, college athletics. In your future, you might want to think about the courses that have the NCAA mark on them. I think it's got a lot of information in it, so I would like to make a motion that the board accepts the program of studies for 18-19. Is that where we're at?
I'll second that.
A second.
Question, and maybe I misunderstood this. I thought I understood that the DOE is requiring 4 years of math-intensive courses moving forward, is that correct? Then should, on the diploma planning worksheet, it seems that we need to unblock a couple of blocks there.
What page?
Page 17.
I believe that was in the structuring. We've had some conversation around that too, because it clarifies later on that for Scholastic, it has to be a fourth year of math. But for the standard and technical, it could be math or it could be science. So that is explained later on that would be under an elective. But we've had some discussion on what that should look like on that sheet, so.
Okay, but
We
I
can
guess I'm
take
just
a look.
reading the dark shading, mean that it's not a requirement, and it's, shouldn't those two be not
They-
shaded?
They don't necessarily have to be math. That was where we had a lot of discussion on whether to keep those shaded or not keep them shaded, because they could be math or they could be science.
But in the
Or-
Scholastic one, it has to
I-
be,
It has
I
to
see.
be math.
but not in the other
Right.
two.
And the other two, it could be a business course that's considered math intensive, it could be a science course that's considered math intensive, so it doesn't necessarily fall into a
Okay.
math course,
Okay,
so to
I got
speak.
it. Where's your list of math-intensive courses? Is
They
that in
are
there? You don't-
on page 19. We have our list of math intensive courses as well as the ones that are considered math intensive for our CTE programs.
Right, we have the Pinkerton list there. We're
The-
still
we're still
waiting
the
for
one
the
from
Salem, but
But
that,
that will be added in once we get it.
Peter?
I just want to make a comment that, you know, as time goes by, there'll be some changes to this, very few. Back when I was actually started on the board, I think we printed hundreds and hundreds of these. Now, we print very few, and there's also a disclaimer someplace up front that says the official copy is what's online. So they can make changes just because we print a few doesn't mean, you know, it's cast in concrete.
The official one is online.
We do use them, we go to the middle school to explain to the students and to the staff what's available, you know, and they use those with their folks, but online is where most people get access to.
And that's always the most up-to-date. Any changes that are made that go through curriculum and assessment or any of that, we do come through, we do update them on the online version.
Well, I just want to clarify my motion as well, that we're waiving that double reading. They've got a time issue, they need to get this going now, that the Curriculum and Assessment Committee suggested to SLT that we don't need to have all these reads if they've got it really well prepared and are ready to answer our questions. We don't need to wait another 2 weeks, and that holds them up yet another 2 weeks to get things going and ready to roll. So my motion is intended that we are taking action to accept this phone as comes tonight, not doing second read.
Point of order, I think there's a policy that requires a second read, though, isn't there? Or
And
you're-
let's make a motion to waive it.
Dan?
I would assume that German 3 will be gone in a year or two.
Correct. We are phasing out, that is the intent to phase out the program. That's why German 1 and 2 are being removed this year. They were, that program started
Okay,
this year.
that's just what I was figuring.
Okay, you looking for a motion to,
I
I
have a
think-
follow-up
okay.
question on that. So when did the board vote to remove German as an offering?
That went through curriculum and
Year-
assessment last year, and
A
then
year
what was
ago,
brought to the
year
board
and a half
last year.
ago?
It was
It
definitely
was
brought to the
before I
board.
was on the board.
And it came up here too.
Yeah, 'cause the teacher left. It was part of it.
Dan
Yeah.
was shaking his head, Greg, so we discussed it here, that we would move that.
I
Ian,
actually think we need to make a motion to table the first motion and then motion to waive the policy first.
okay,
Amend your motion.
Amend the motion.
amend the motion. I agree, amend the motion. Who made the,
I made the motion, so I'll amend the motion to waive second read.
Second.
Thank you.
And to approve.
Amending my approval motion. And amending it to waive second read, because my original motion was to accept it. Program studies.
okay? So there's a motion on the floor.
Sue amended.
Who made the motion? Sue made the motion.
Yeah.
I made the motion
And
and I
the
made the
amendment.
amendment. So you need two
Vote on the
votes.
amendment first.
The amendment to waive.
Waive
Okay.
second read of the slow reading now.
All those in favor of waiving the policy?
The amendment.
The amen-
All those in favor.
favor of the- I'm sorry, all in favor of the amendment? Against? So 7-4 okay. So now that it's waived. Now, are we back to the original motion
Yes, as amended.
as amended? Which is, could you read the motion, please?
The motion was to accept the program of studies for the 1890 school year and waive the second read. That's the new amended motion.
Discussion, please.
Discussion, okay.
Yeah, you know, at the beginning, well, a few months ago, we did get the master class list. And I thought the whole point of getting the master class list was to rationalize our program of offering, program of studies. And I don't know why we're rushing to approve a program of studies when we know that there are lots of offerings in here that have very few students. And I would like to see some discussion by the board on rationalizing our program of studies. So that's why I think this is a precipitous approval tonight, and we have policies for a reason. And the reason we have the policies is so that we can have these kind of substantive discussions.
You might understand, even after this board approves this, the changes can still occur?
You know, the idea of having it online as the official document gives us a fluid situation that can be addressed
by the board, and changes can be suggested and determined as we go. That said, we start the course selection process in January, and we need to have a document to work from. The courses, all the courses in here have been board approved. And so there's nothing here that should be a surprise to anyone. What we run, is dictated by what kids sign up for and decisions we make regarding how we can best utilize our staff to meet the need.
Any other questions? Mrs. Green?
Well, then, I think we might need a motion at some point to limit course offerings to a certain class size, and anything that falls below that has to come before the board for specific approval.
Kim?
It is not uncommon to have language that speaks to that in program of studies, so I would be in favor of bringing that at a later time for discussion for inclusion into the program of studies. I have looked at many other high schools, and it is typical to have.
Was it in their program of studies, or is it in their policy?
It was in their program of studies.
Okay, I was just
And I'm not
clarifying.
prepared to, go into names, but I will certainly be happy to, but it's definitely in there. So I think that it is something I would like to see moving forward. I understand that not every course that's offered typically runs, but I know from my own experience that it is a little bit easier if you have something that's definitive in a statement as to what courses may or may not run.
Well, I think that, certainly since we do make decisions not to run courses from time to time because of either lack of enrollment or our inability to staff the running of it with the numbers being so low, that to be able to tell students that couldn't happen, or to tell parents that can happen, that just because you sign up for a course, doesn't mean that we're able to run it. That's fair.
I agree, and I just feel it's better to actually state that in writing as opposed to verbally, having to say that, you're being more upfront if I think you state that in writing within your program of studies. That's just my
We
opinion.
can work with the curriculum assessment committee to try to make something make sense.
I can certainly get you model language from other programs
can
of
you-
study.
Was it a high school you saw it in?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
can you remember
yes.
where it was? Was it a local? Was it New Hampshire?
Concord has it, I
Concord,
think
New Hampshire?
Exeter has it.
Exeter has it.
So,
I
I
didn't
mean,
do
I
an
like to look at
exhaustive.
model language.
I-
I don't
I'd
think
be happy to,
Oyster River does.
I'd be happy to send you the model language
Because I had looked
that
at
I
the
pulled.
language from Oyster River, but, sure, let's look at some model language,
well,
but for now,
what I'm hearing, again, we can move forward on this. It needs
Yes,
to be
yeah,
amended.
yeah,
that's right.
So I see no reason not to keep the process moving. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. PAC siding. Probably PAC siding and sound study, even though we have two agenda items here. Looks like they're gonna be back to back here.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
in your packets, you should have a briefing on the status of where we are with the PAC siding. This originated during CIP discussions. So I'll give you a little background. The Performing Arts Center, as you know, was constructed in 2001. The exterior wall system consists of many different materials, including brick, CMU, metal, and cement paneling board. And the main issue with the exterior wall system lies with the cement paneling system. And the main problem is that water is causing the panels to rapidly deteriorate, specifically at the seams. And overall, we're looking at about 17,000 square feet of that particular material. So far, I'll give you a little history. March 2017, during CIP planning, I believe $70,000 was proposed to fix the issue. When I came in July, I reviewed all of the CIP items that were going to be in my field. And I just had some questions, didn't think it was going to be enough. So I did some further investigation, and I also brought it to the board's attention, and I think you guys asked me to kind of talk to the architect and the former contractor and get some background on it. Before I did that, I reached out to two firms that specialize in building envelope systems before I contacted the project architect. Both agreed that we do have a problem and we have to act on it sooner than later. After consulting with those two firms, I did reach out to H.L. Turner, the project architect for the Performing Arts Center. They've been very helpful with us as coming out and doing field inspections, keeping the lines of communication open, and really being a big help to us. So far, that's been done at no cost to the district, Chase in the background. And it's their opinion that we may have a warranty claim with the manufacturer of the siding system, but we've yet to schedule an on-site meeting with the manufacturer's rep at this time.
Who's the manufacturer?
It's James Hardy.
Oh, it's Hardy
product.
Pine? Okay.
Yes, that's a Hardy board. So for the next steps, I'd like to keep on the track that we are, keep working with H.L. Turner, seeing what we have for a warranty claim before we take any more action. However, just in preliminary costs, if we were to look at an alternative siding system, like a standing seam metal, which is also on the pack, that would match, we'd be looking at a total cost with soft costs, mobilization, everything else, at about $425,000 to reside the building.
About how much? Excuse me? How much?
$425,000. And that
Okay, that's what I thought I
includes
said. Okay.
design.
All right.
For the complete building.
Yes, that's correct. That's to replace all the cement paneling board.
Okay.
So I figured those are very, very rough estimates just based on square footage, but that's what we have.
Is the entire building degrading, or are there certain sides that are degrading more just because of the prevailing winds and things?
The back of the building is seeing the worst of it, but the condition is typical throughout the building.
Okay. Has H.L. Turner had other clients that have filed warranty claims against this particular manufacturer and won?
Not that they were aware of.
Yeah, usually I use that product. It's a good product. Hardy
It is,
Plank.
and I've used it in the past too.
And it's 99% of the time, it's an installer issue versus a product issue. So, of course, that's 20 years ago. I got to think there's no warrant. These aren't Craftsman tools here. These aren't lifetime warranties here. Okay. So right now, you're just going to keep working, because as you can well imagine, with this group of people in the room, we don't have $425,000 either downstairs or upstairs in the coffers, so.
No, and I wasn't anticipating walking away with the project funding to go ahead and do this. It was more information.
Thank you.
And, just to keep on the track we are and see what we can do for a manufacturer's warranty claim.
Okay. Ms. Green?
Yeah, just to be clear, just to make sure I'm understanding this. So let's say this is the whole PAC building, right? And the part that we're talking about needing to reside is a skirt that runs along the base of the PAC all the way around it, correct?
No, actually on the
Okay.
rear of the pack from the bottom to the top is this paneling system.
So
And then
one
throughout the
back
building.
wall,
It's also
One-
on the sides, there's a portion of the front that has it,
It's all the way around.
in a skirt or the full
whole
walls?
thing.
full walls.
There's only a small portion of the pack that's brick. Everything else is this cement board.
Yeah, it's the front of the
Front
building.
is brick.
Yeah, the front
And
is
it's
brick.
not even the whole front that's
Okay.
brick.
Even part of the front has
The
this
skirt
this
is
cement
on the
paneling
The
system too.
sides that nobody
Oh,
sees on the
okay.
back.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Don't be giving the secrets away. We won't tell everyone.
All you have to do is get in your car and drive around.
There you go.
Sides, back, front. The front has got brick.
Yeah, well, I was familiar with how the skirt was deteriorating, but I didn't realize it was the entire wall from top to bottom in the back.
So in year one for the CIP, we did have $70,000, and if we were to use any of that money, I would recommend that it go towards design costs to solve this issue.
So in the 18-19 CIP, I didn't
That's
bring my
correct.
book, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
That's okay.
Yeah, there's 70,000 put away, and we had earmarked it for this design or what was gonna happen next, because we
For
didn't
the
know we'd
repair.
get this far even, so.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Can I just, what are we looking to design here? Aren't we looking at just replacing?
Well, given the history of the product and how it held up on our building, I would like to explore alternative material.
Oh, so you're just looking to explore, not to redesign something. It's,
Is to offer up different options for the building envelope.
Again, I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't installed right. I'll bet you anything, it was not that product. That's a pretty reputable company.
So I still don't understand why we need money for a design study. I still don't understand that.
I don't think we're not having a design study. I guess that was my question. We don't need money for a design study, do we?
If we were to spend $425,000 to reskin the building, I would recommend an architect's stamp on the design, rather than just calling a contractor and giving us quotes. Because we don't know if it was the actual panels, maybe it was a bad line on the manufacturing line. It could have been the fact that the building wasn't sheathed properly. So I think there's multiple issues that warrant bringing in a designer.
Well, I'm gonna keep the meeting moving, so I'll tell you this. I'd like to sit down with you to see where you come up with these numbers here, because that's, you know. Thank you. Sound study?
Yep. I do have Mr. D somewhere.
I saw him, he was in the building somewhere.
He made a great wardrobe choice, so I'll just preface with that.
Okay.
Is he wearing this with plot in it? Oh, it's in purple too.
Yes, yes.
We coordinate these things.
Shoes are different color, though.
I'm right. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so for the PAC sound study, I'll just brief you quickly on the timeline of how this all transpired. Back in the fall of 2016, it was brought to the attention of the district, administration, and the school board. There was a potential occupational safety hazard regarding sound levels and acoustical treatments in rooms 707, 716, and 719. On December 6th of 16, the school board voted unanimously to authorize the district to retain consulting services to provide an acoustical study. On April 20th of 17, after the study was received, the school board voted to retain an architect to draft up construction documents and bid specs to install the proper acoustical treatments to mitigate the occupational safety hazard. In June to July, the bid documents were created, budget pricing was established. September is when late September, I published the bid documents, seeking competitive bids, posted on Dodge Reports, New Hampshire Bids, directly emailed different contractors in the field to get competitive quotes. And on November 9th, we had the public bid opening. As I brought to your attention on November 16th, we had one responder, and the total price was $63,905 to treat all 3 rooms, furnish all materials and labor. So that's where we are up to date. So basically, to summarize the process, an occupational safety hazard was brought to the attention of administration and school board. School board authorized the study, authorized the architect. We had the design, we bid it out, we have a contractor ready to go, and we're seeking approval to move forward and install this year.
First of all, do we even have any money this year?
Well, so far, we've erased the tennis courts, right, that we had planned for $95,000. We've dipped into that with different CIP items such as playgrounds. I think audio and visual for this boardroom. So we have approximately $30,000 left in the coffers on the tennis court project. And we're hoping that the work we have planned for the rest of the year, we keep getting good aggressive pricing, and we'd be able to fund this project to move forward with.
But right now, if I just heard that right, you have $30,000.
Roughly $30,000.
And we're looking for 70.
We're looking for $63,905.
Okay, I'm sorry. What is your, what's your total maintenance budget right now? Are you just referring to CIP
I'm
projects
referring to
when
the
you say that?
capital projects.
Yep.
It's taxed according to EPV.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've had some success with pricing on the projects we've already accomplished to date on our building projects. So if we keep going that route, we should be good.
Dan?
If we could, I'd like to ask the superintendent if he thinks that it's feasible in this budget year.
To spend this money?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, my recommendation would be to complete this project, and so that's why we asked, Attorney Dowd and Mr. Gary to see if there was a way that we could fund it. They both believe that in our capital funds that we would be able to get that done this year. I think it's an important project. Obviously, the safety of staff and students is well documented, but this is not necessarily the ideal situation for them to be practicing. I rely on Mr. DiBartolomeo. I'm not an expert in music by any stretch of the imagination, but he certainly is, and he brought this to our attention, like I said, a good while ago, and we followed this through. Our hope was to already have had this work done before the orchestras and the inside practicing was going on, but we just didn't have it done by Thanksgiving, but here we are, first week of December, so my recommendation would be to do it as soon as possible.
That's your recommendation. The question is, I think Dan's question is, where's the, we gotta make sure, do we have the money to do it?
Well, I wouldn't make that recommendation if we didn't have the money, so I apologize if that wasn't clear, but Mr. Attorney Dowd and Mr. Gary have both indicated that they believe that we could find the money in capital in the current budget to get the project done as soon as you authorize it.
Okay. Dan?
So I'd like to make the motion to go through with this for $64,000. And with that, at the same line, just remember that we already voted on playgrounds and audio-visual stuff that had no impact, virtually, on the health of certain kids and administrators. So I'd just like you to take that in when you go for that. So that's my motion, 64.
Second.
Donna was first. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Discussion?
No, go ahead, Donna.
Peter did.
I did.
Okay, thanks. Discussion.
Discussion?
I feel uncomfortable going ahead with a project that just had one bid. I think we should put it out to bid again, personally. Also, if I read these documents correctly, the band room does not have carpeting on the floor, and I didn't see any carpeting being recommended for the floor. Now, it just seems from my simple common sense that if you're trying to remediate a problem with sound, then carpeting on the floor would be one of the easiest solutions. So why wasn't that even broached?
I'm not sure. We hired an architect to interpret the sound study and took the recommendations and plotted them on construction plan.
And being delicate, having a band room and having carpet in a band room with the instruments and the discharge of condensation from the instruments, it's not the way to go.
I
so,
get your point.
Yeah, so I'd like to kind of reinforce that. The VTC we have was really what we need, and the sound on the floor, the carpeting, no, it's we'd solve one problem and create two or three others.
Well, that absolutely
Yeah.
explains it, thank you. And I'm sorry, but back to my previous issue, I don't feel comfortable going ahead with a project of this magnitude on one bid.
Okay, Kim?
You mentioned this is an OSHA issue. Can you specify which OSHA
I didn't say it was an
regulation?
OSHA
Oh,
issue.
you
I
said it was an occupational
occupational-
safety and health
Nope.
issue? Just occupational safety? It's not an
Occupational
OSHA.
safety issue. It's not an
It's not an
OSHA.
OSHA violation, is it?
OSHA does not have jurisdiction over public buildings in New
But it
Hampshire.
does regulate workplace safety, and it does set averages for hearing, both time-weighted and 8-hour averages. So they do have some, this is a workplace for some people. So
I understand that.
just wondering if we've taken a look at that. One of the things that I notice here is that your background sound levels are 32 to 34 decibels, which is over the recommended range. I think we need to start there and look at trying to get those down. The other thing that I see here too that kind of perplexes me is in the choral room, this is saying that it's too dead.
It's too dead.
It's too dead. Why would we want to deaden the sound in there anymore? It doesn't have enough reverb.
Reverb, yeah.
Okay.
It's different for choral.
I think the process that the board followed was hiring an architect to interpret the sound study and make recommendations
Right.
for bid to improve the situation.
That's why I wanted them all separate, Kim, because maybe we'd find out that originally we talked just about the band room, that maybe that's what we would do. And we find that the other two rooms weren't, I'm not saying, let's not do anything with them, but we could see the differences. So that was, had been my suggestion.
Dan?
So how long was it out for bid for? So to bid, I think 30 to 45 days.
And you actually contacted people too to try to get them to bid on it?
Of course I did. Like anything else we do, we not only post it, Dodge Reports, which is used by most major contractors in New England, across the country, actually. New Hampshire bids, very popular for public bids. And then direct email, 6 to 8 companies. But there is a labor shortage. I mean, there's a big project going on in Everett, the big casino, that's causing, a lot of contractors are tied up.
Tony, could you elaborate it? Because basically, we've been hearing a lot from Tom, and obviously you would be the music expert in the building here. Now, I guess the board authorized, and you went out and got an architectural, were these people, were they sound architects, or what?
They were not only architectural, but they were acousticians.
Okay.
So these people, that's what they do for a living. They study the physics of sound, and they study the physics of sound within the rehearsal spaces that we have. And that's where those came from.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask another question? My sister's a professional musician, and I also play professionally.
Great.
Why doesn't the band practice on the stage? Professional musicians would typically always practice, or I understand you've got some issues with equipment, but could you not store some of the equipment on the stage and practice on the stage? That is the preferred place to practice, correct? And
Of course it
the band
is.
is obviously the
Yep.
issue here, because I know that the orchestra typically doesn't practice with the winds, except for once or twice before a concert, so. So why don't we use the stage?
Do we use it on a regular basis? No. That's the largest classroom we have in the district, and that classroom is used K through 12 for different performances and different events. We had the student council in there the other day. We can't dedicate that space to any one class, because that would be fine. Again, we're going to solve that problem, yes, because the acoustics in that auditorium are wonderful. But if we dedicate that for the band, then I would have had to say, okay, student council, you can't come in there today. Middle school, you can't have your event in there today, so forth and so on. So we do not, and I have not, and we've not dedicated that space to any one class. Like I said, we'd solve the problem with the band, but we would create other problems in especially 6 through 12, because that classroom is used, and it's the largest classroom in the district. It's used quite a bit, not just by the music department. So we don't dedicate it in there for anyone.
Peter?
How long would this installation likely take? And when could it be done reasonably?
Ideally during a school break, but I have talked with the contractor about maybe working nights and weekends to accomplish this ASAP. And of course, working around the music programs, we can get it done.
Donna?
I'd like to know where exactly, from what lines this money is coming from, because we have to vote to transfer the appropriations, and we also have to keep track of our capital budget, because this means that if we're using it up, which I'm happy to, and that's what it's there for, I just want the taxpayers to understand that we won't be able to put anything in our capital reserve fund as per the warrant article, because we've exhausted our capital, which is fine with me, because that's what it's there for, and I'm happy to do that. But I would like to know what, specifically, what lines this money is going to be coming from, because I want to know what isn't going to be funded.
Do you have any ideas on that, Tom, or?
I don't off the top of my head. I'd have to work with Attorney Dowd and
Okay.
mark that.
Right behind you. 4,600?
Okay, 100, 4,600, 430 account.
Which
The
is,
4,600 line?
that's just projects?
That's the building renovations line.
Construction services.
Okay.
I want to know more specifically than that. Like, what isn't going to be funded?
He just said it may be a combination of good bids coming in, so it might be a little from this, a little bit from that.
But it's all the same line.
It's all the same line, yeah.
Well, it's all the same offline, it isn't all the same subcategories, but.
So I think what you're asking is, obviously, projects were put in there to create that number. So, then something may not get done.
Yeah, I'd just like to know what, yeah.
Okay. And I do agree with your overall thought that that's pretty much, that is the purpose of the money, to do the repairs. So, right now, refresh my memory again, what did we save, if you will, by the putting off the tennis courts was 30-some-odd thousand, is that what you said?
There's 30,000 left in the tennis court money.
30,000 for tennis court money.
That's after the playgrounds and the boardroom AV equipment.
Mm-hmm. And you're looking for another 35,000, is that what it is?
He's got 30, so looking for another 35.
Yeah. Motion on the floor, so we have any other comments there, Dan?
You're confident there's nothing you don't think you're not gonna get done, put it that way.
We may have to modify scope on, I mean, one project comes to mind was the Cal Wall panels. I think we have budgeted for 135,000,
Yeah, 134 in the CIP.
134. Maybe we reduce the scope and defer some of the project for another CIP year to get this job done.
Oh, the windows?
Oh, the windows.
At the high school, they
Oh,
had
yeah.
that
Okay.
plastic
Yeah.
Kevlar, or whatever it is. It's not Kevlar, but whatever it was, those panels that are just letting.
Yeah, I just wasn't familiar with the term you used, okay.
Oh, Cal Wall, yes. It's-
In this process, as Mr. Beal asked, this would take place during the school vacation, is there?
I'm hopeful. It's tough to schedule with a contractor without knowing the funding is going to be in place,
Sure.
issuing a purchase order, and then we would get to the scheduling part.
But what was the time frame of the project?
Probably roughly 2 weeks.
So, I would like to see where this is coming from before we approve it. That's what I would like to see. And I would like us to vote on transferring the appropriations from one project to the next. Then I would feel more comfortable approving this. I agree it needs to be done, but I think there's no burning rush right now, and I think we should find out where the money is coming from and at cost of what other projects.
Well, I think I think that's why they're here. I think there is a rush. Unlike other projects, we apparently have, well, there's a history here that there's a safety sound issue, so unlike some others, I think we have to expedite this one. Kim?
We do have approximately 1.4 million in the capital reserve account for the district.
But then it's
This,
voted
yes, but
on the warrant.
we are talking about a warrant going out in a voting in mid-March. We're talking about probably not doing this till potentially April vacation, if we don't get it done now. I don't see any reason. I would rather see it come out of funds that we know have been designated for capital reserve, rather than worry that we're not gonna have some other funded project being done this year that we had budgeted for and anticipated for. We're still early in the budget year. We have already spent $40,000 to $45,000, I think, based on the sound equipment in the playgrounds. I mean, it's unfortunate the timing of this, but I'm concerned from a budgetary perspective and also from the apportionments to the towns on this. And I'd prefer to see it come out of a capital funds that we have designated.
Okay.
Is that a 2/3 vote?
Kelly?
2/3 required?
I understand, want to know like where we would take it from, which little subline, I understand. That makes sense to know where it's coming from, so you know how to go forward. However, I think it's a little early to tell where you can save money on certain projects. You might do this project and then save a little on the next project, or be able to change the scope of a project and not do every single bit of it to save a little bit more, and working through that, get everything done as best you can, and shave a little off each one. So I think in the end, we might be able to look and say, we shaved it here, 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 and here, and you get your answer, and we know where it came from. I don't think we could tell now and just go through and say, take that out and that out. I think that would be a little tough to do, in my opinion.
Well, also, I think that's one of the things that happens, I think, at this board meeting that it'll be actually coming up on the next agenda item, but this board is tasked on any given day with priorities. So situations arise. So if something that was planned has to be put off, and something is deemed more important by the administration and the board, I think we have to look at that. So, Peter?
I absolutely agree with what you just said.
Can we get some minutes of that?
Yes.
All right.
This isn't a first. This is not a first.
All right, that's-
No. I
Okay.
think we agree more than we disagree.
Oh, jeez.
I'm really not comfortable putting this out as a warrant article to get from the capital reserve, because if that's voted down, no means no. And this is a health and safety issue. I haven't done the research to understand which OSHA regs we violate, but really, now that the board has been aware of this, we have a study, to show it is an issue. All it takes is, frankly, is somebody to drop a dime with the Department of Labor and/or OSHA to force us to do it and potentially penalize us for knowing about it and not fixing it, and instead buying playground equipment. And I voted for the playground equipment. I'm good with that. I'm not knocking that, but it's, it just, the optics of this is not good for somebody coming in and looking at this situation.
Well, I'm less concerned about the liability versus the responsibility. So now that it's been officially brought to the board as an issue that should be addressed sooner than later, I think it'd be wiser to address this issue sooner than later. I'm not going to invite anyone at home to go out and get their ears tested and see if that had something to do with playing their instruments too loud, but I think now that it's come to this board's attention, we're talking about $35,000. Unfortunately, Tony, you're not as good as Kathy Dioris, because if you can do what she can do and raise more than half the money, it makes our job a lot easier.
There we go. Well, I just wish I was as good as Kathy.
Well,
That's all I could say.
she's very good at that, so it
Yeah.
makes, so that's, whenever people go out and have that support groups, and it's fantastic how it does make the boards easier when all of a sudden 2/3 of the project is paid for by volunteers.
Yeah.
But we don't have time to have a fundraiser for the PAC. So, Mrs. Green.
Yeah, why don't we just move ahead with the band room? Because that's 35,000 right there. We virtually have that money available. I would feel, and that's where I feel the major problem is.
So you should do it all.
And the other two rooms can go to warrant.
For this kind of money, you do it all. If this was a lot more money, I would agree with you. But for the kind of money we're talking about, I'd say you should just do it all. That's my thoughts.
Right. I think, and with construction, having the equipment there and doing it all at once as opposed to having some of the equipment there and then leaving and coming back, I don't think the price is the same. I think the price is to do it all at once. So
Yeah, they're not going
it'd
down.
be more expensive.
In fact, it says there's no difference in price whether we have them done in 3 separate tranches or whether in one. It's the same price.
Today. Yes, that's today, but I mean,
Or one bidder.
well, I wouldn't bidder, but if people, again, I'm not a contractor of any other type of magnitude that Mr. Gary's trying to employ here, but being a general contractor myself, I can tell you, it's easier said than done to get bids. There is no lack of work out there. So I'm not surprised, I hear this over and over again, that people are trying to get people to bid, and it's not that kind of climate. There's a lot of work out there, and there's a limited labor pool of skilled, technical craftsmen, period. I know that for a fact. I live it. So, and so do you. So, Kim?
I tend to agree with Mrs. Green as far as doing the band room. I'm still concerned that the orchestra room and chorus room have noise levels above the recommendation, and you're now installing panels on a room that's already considered quite dead in the chorus room. And if you fix this noise problem, it's going to also affect the acoustics within that room. You could have more of a problem once you fix this noise problem by installing these, in terms of the reverb.
You know, that reverb, and I'm not an acoustician, so I'm going to say that right up front, nor am I a medical doctor to talk about the ringing in people's ears. But they're really talking about in a perfect situation. There's ambient noise in here, and the decibel level in here, even when I'm not talking, is somewhere between 25 and 35. That's just ambient noise. And what they're talking about is a reverberation level, but the problem isn't the reverberation level. The problem is once we get 120 kids in there, and they're all singing in the chorus hall, that space is not physically large enough. And we don't deal with square footage, we deal with cubic footage. There's not enough cubic footage in that to let the sound properly dispense, or disperse rather, without doing injury to the people who are in there all the time. Those rooms that we're using were not designed for the purpose in which they're being used now. Those rooms were designed as 900 square foot classrooms for the most part, and they were never designed to be implemented the way we're doing it. The parking lot behind the PAC, for those of us who have been here for a while, knows that that's where the instrument and all of the rehearsal spaces were going that were properly designed. Due to cost-cutting measures, they were reduced. They were not even reduced, they were eliminated. So then we went back to the drawing board, looked at the original specs and the footprint for the building and said, now what can we do to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear? And that's what we've done. There's just not enough square footage, there's not enough cubic footage. We have enough cubic footage in the band hall for about 85 people. That's what it says. We have 130 people in there. So we're not double, but we're pretty close. And the reverberation, what they're referring to is just in this room, or any room. But when you put 120 people in there and the decibel level goes up to 65, 75, 85, how does it handle that? It doesn't handle it well. Because number one, there's square walls. Any acoustic space, I don't care where you go, if it's properly designed, the walls are not square. Because sound waves, because that's the way they travel. So they're trying to do that to either diffuse or deflect those sound waves to lessen their effect on the people in the room. And the people in the room are the teachers and the students. So, yes, they're measuring the reverberation, but it's not really impacting or having an impact when you put 120 kids in there making sound all at once. So it's really comparing apples to oranges. And again, I'm not an acoustician. He or she may come in and have a title entirely, but that's my understanding, having read this. And there's a problem in all three rooms. And I will agree with everyone, or at least the most egregious problem is in room 707, which is the band hall. That's where we're sticking 130 kids in there, space that's really grossly inadequate on an acoustic level.
Mrs. Green?
So I'm circling around thinking maybe we should require band practice to be in the PAC auditorium on the stage because we have a safety issue. We have a safety issue. All the other classes will just be inconvenienced.
They're not classes, they're large groups.
Or groups, so.
But they won't be able to come.
no
The one event, only because I know because I was there, student council event there was 7 high schools from all over the southern region. They were there for an event, and that was where it was housed. So the middle school and high school both use that as the auditorium that they don't have. I think that's what you're referring to.
That's exactly right.
There's a general meeting space where you can do large 2, 3, 4, 5 classes at once kind of thing.
I understand. So how often would you need this space for the band?
On a daily basis.
You'd need it on a daily basis. How many hours a day?
The band right now meets in a 90-minute block, so.
90 minutes every day? And some of these functions, I would imagine, are all-day events?
Yeah, some are 4 hours,
Sometimes.
some are all day, I guess, it depends. I've been to
Takes
some.
any flexibility away from letting,
Oh,
you know,
it just will
share-
tie our hands
middle school
completely.
shares the space.
That's right.
That's
As
what we
does all,
agreed on.
as does all four elementary
That's
schools.
right,
Not
all
with
the
the
elementary
frequency
programs as
that the
well.
612 do, but they use that space also.
That, I mean, we just ruin the, it
Kim?
would be tough on flexibility to use the space.
So the band practices every day on the block schedule?
We have 2 blocks. One of them is the band and orchestra, and the other block is guitar orchestra, jazz band, and then the chorus. Thank you.
So
And the
full
chorus. So
band
we
is-
have band classes, we have music classes that meet on a 90-minute block all day, all 5 days.
Okay, but I think the question specifically, because again, I know what it's like to
Yep.
play in a full band, in a full orchestra.
Right.
You're putting acoustics, regardless of whether this goes through or not. You're in a room that's designed for 85 and you're putting 130 students in there. I think that band needs to go in the auditorium. I'm talking about the band itself, not.
I understand.
Not the.
The instrumental part of it, the band. I do understand that. Yeah.
And I think the full band, at least, I think the orchestra on the block schedule is either practicing 2 or 3 days a week. I really think it's critical for that band to get up on the stage. I'm concerned now when I'm hearing you telling me you got 130 instrumentalists in a room designed for 85. That's way beyond where it should be. Even,
This is
I
the
don't
fif-
care what you put in there, that's still gonna be a problem, is it not?
Excuse me?
It doesn't seem to matter what you put in here for soundproofing. If you're in a room that's designed for 85 and you've got 130 students, I don't think it's gonna solve this problem.
I'm not an acoustician, as acoustician, I can't speak to that. But I do have, the Kavanaugh and Tucci people were the same people that designed the auditorium acoustics, and they did a marvelous job. I mean, they're internationally recognized acousticians, so they did that right. They being the architects in consort with the acousticians. I can't speak, if they say it's gonna be fixed, it's gonna be fixed, I don't know.
So let me see if I can sum this up. So the people that did the sound design, if you will, they were involved when the PAC was built originally?
Yes.
Okay. And then evidently, we, as time went on, used rooms differently?
Yes.
Because they weren't expecting, we weren't required to have that type of sound acoustics? Is that why we have a problem? Because that,
No, the rooms were cut from the budget. They were supposed to be built right behind them with the parking lot.
The parking lot is supposed to be in a whole nother building.
oh, I remember that.
Okay.
I do remember that, but
Yeah, yeah.
but we, for the last 20 years, have been using this,
Right.
and we just didn't realize the issue in terms of sound. Help me out here. So
Yeah,
we didn't
help me out.
realize that the issue,
We've always had a problem. It's always been too loud in that room, period, end of
Okay.
discussion. In
All right.
2002, for the last 15 years, it's always been too loud.
okay,
When the budget committee came through and did the facility tour, and budget and school board, they said, what do you really need to have done? And finally, I said, this is what we need to have done. And
okay, so then.
and we're here because of
Okay,
that.
thank you. So it looks like we can all agree there's an issue. Looks like the overall question is, where's the money coming from? My thoughts are that, again, for the kind of money we're talking about here, and I realize we're approaching the halfway part of the year, because this clearly affects more Mr. Geary's budget and the operation of the district here. The well is running dry, if you will. The money's been raised and appropriated for reasons of this, even though this is the exact task. This is the purpose of the money, is to do repairs. I think we should, I think there was a motion on the floor and was seconded. I think all those in favor of authorizing this expenditure?
I think Mr. Geary has something to say.
I just wanted to make a suggestion, that if you did want to use the tennis court balance, to transfer up to $35,000 from the 4,200 account, which is sites, to the 4,600 account, which is the building construction and renovation account.
I'm sorry, what was the first account you mentioned?
Sorry, excuse me. 4,200, which is the sites improvement account.
Okay,
That's what tennis courts was classified under.
okay. Okay.
Just a quick question.
That would be
I just had a quick question.
Steph?
For all the kids that have been going through there and been impacted by these loud decibels, I wonder if there's anything that we should be or could be doing as a board to to reach back and make sure that kids, probably teenagers now, but kids are being tested to make sure that their hearing is okay, and what, if anything, can be done about that. Because we're talking about a lot of kids who've been
We are.
exposed.
But we're really talking
High
about the
levels.
major impact of this not affecting the kids nearly as much. They're in there for 45 minutes at a time. Now they're in there for 90 minutes, every other day,
Right.
and then 90 minutes. The teachers who are in there for 4, 5, or 6 hours, which I was one for the last 15 years, that's the real impact. Now let's
Right.
not kid that. That's the impact. The
Yeah.
adults that are in the room 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day, dealing with that. That's really the impact. The kids are only in there for short periods of time, every other day. The teachers are in there 5 days a week,
Yeah.
and they're constantly being bombarded.
Yeah.
So I really don't think and again, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not an acoustician, I have no, expertise in that area. I don't see it to be a huge safety issue for the students, to be
Right.
quite honest.
But for the teachers.
Yeah, and especially for the younger students, if we look even closer, the 6 to 8 kids, those classes are smaller. The decibel levels are lower,
Right.
so there's really no impact there. It's the high school kids in the larger ensembles, and that's again, they're not there with the frequency that the adults are.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Okay. This motion made, some seconded. I think there's been a lot of debate here. All those in favor,
What is the motion exactly?
to go ahead and do this, the sound setting.
For 65, for
64.
64,000?
64K.
Yes, yes. Unanimous, thank you. I think right now, do we have, you have an account so we can actually vote to do a transfer?
I'll make the motion to transfer the number 30,000.
I would say up to 35,000. I rounded around 30,000, but just in case there's extra dollars, that would be the tennis court
35,000.
balance.
To 35,000 from the 4,200 line to the 4,600 line.
Second. Councilman,
I-
any discussion?
I assume these are both apportioned the same way on those two lines, yeah?
Sites. I'd just like to amend the motion to say that it is specifically coming from the tennis court project, nowhere else.
Okay. It should be coming from an account versus a project.
Yeah, it should. If we had a specific account
We just
number, I
did.
would appreciate that. 4,200 is a very broad line, it's for site improvements. 4,600 is for building maintenance, so,
I think we're getting a little too technical here.
I don't think we have a tennis court account.
Right, and I think we're getting way too technical here. So, there's been a motion on the floor to move, second, all those in favor of the approving it, let's see.
What's the motion? I'm
The
sorry.
motion, I
I'm
believe,
lost.
was to move,
Okay.
To line to the 4,600 line, 4,200 to
Okay.
4,600 line. Sorry.
favor, opposed?
Sorry.
Yeah. All right, thank you, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. This is the grand finale here, I'll put it this way, for what I think people are coming here tonight for. Jeff's got here a lot of books.
Only paperless.
Okay, what we're going to talk about, people, is, it's under agenda item is a budget update. This came up, actually, we've had a few meetings, where everyone on this board, as well as everyone on the budget committee, is well aware of the process, the budget process. And when you get to this time of the year, because we're probably, I'm guessing, about 2/3 the way through the budget process, so the budget's not finalized tonight. There are those who are going to not agree with decisions of the boards, whether it, and of course, I'm just going to keep my conversations to the school board versus the budget committee. I want to be as clear as I can here, because there's been a lot of, there's been some discussion, and there's been a lot of assumptions made by people that, I guess inaccuracy is the best way to put it, because I don't think a lot of this, the information that's out there has come either from the school board or the superintendent. We're going through a process right now. The budget last year's operating budget was $71.5 million. The initial proposed budget came in at, I think, $75 million and change. Historically in Timberlane, that's usually a $2 to $3 million when people first bring a budget in front of the school board, in front of the budget committee. They put a number out there. And you can go past and look at past history, and you're going to find within a week to 10 days, the next draft comes in, it's $1 million or $2 million less. So I've had several conversations with the superintendent. He made an attempt. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, to show the world, the Timberlane world, and the boards, what does a $5.5 million budget decrease look like? And there's all kinds of ways you can cut a $5.5 million budget, and he had his ideas, and there's some items on there I agreed with, some I didn't. We're probably, then as a board, we met last week, and we increased our request, adding $1 million to try to offset the budget pain, for lack of any other words, because no matter what you do, people are going to be offended. Now, obviously, we're in a room full of dedicated staff here tonight, and I don't think anyone should, in this room, think that the school board does not recognize the dedication that the people have in this district that work for our district. Now, that being said, I can tell you that I'd love it if there was some magical money and we could grab 5, 10, 15, 20 million from sources that just really don't exist. You know, this is public spending. We are doing everything we can to be fiscally responsible, to maintain the best quality of education we can. I'm also confident that it was mentioned a little earlier tonight on a small article that when I turned to my left and asked the superintendent, can we do this? Well, yeah, if we couldn't do this, I would have suggested we could do it. So I'm confident that the superintendent is going to let us know if we're going down something that just cannot be done. Now, what I am, I've heard an awful lot about this. We've received emails, we've received phone calls, and we see them in the other direction too. Just I know that people, and probably people in this room, just I get it. You're employees and you're a dedicated group, and thank you very much for your service. I look at the budget this year. We have costs that we are going to honor. We have requirements from the state to pay retirements. We have contractual obligations we clearly are going to honor. And when you add, and that's from both the unions as well as other administrators type contracts, contractual obligations overall. And they amount to maybe $1.8 million more than we actually spent last year. And no questions asked, you have to pay them. These are real contracts, and we're going to honor them. My goal, and I've had, again, a couple of conversations with the administration, that was to present the most equitable budget we can come up with that was as far away from the students as possible. So what does that mean? That means that you're probably not going to see these teacher cuts. There's not going to be any type of, you heard earlier tonight that we don't want to see a staff reduction of 80 people. There's not going to be anywhere near 80 people. When you're talking about a couple of $1 million, what my focus is, and I recognize, is it affects some a lot of dedicated people, actually. My personal focus, and the majority of the board, is on the administration. The administration involves whether it's principals, vice principals, academic deans. There's all kinds of people that fall under the, you people probably know this better than I do, because you are these people. Earlier this year, this board took action, and we initially froze 2 administrative positions. Then when they were eliminated, I believe about 90 days later. There were another 2 or 3 positions that are in the works. One has not been filled. It will be filled, but it's probably going to be combined with another position. So, and I know, in all due respect to some of the speakers here earlier tonight, no, I cannot guarantee people's retirements. And every day, people leave this district, whether they retire, whether they have something in their life changed, they no longer work it. But it happens every day. To the best of my knowledge, I think we've received about 3 so far, and I don't expect that to be the end of the year. Now, we're going to work as hard as we can and as responsible as we can with the superintendent to make this as painless, as possible. Now, again, I can't just sit back, and because I know that overall, yes, we support Timberlane. We're here for you guys. We're here for the students. We're also here for our constituents. That's who pays up. That's who really are our bosses. In both, as people can well imagine, they're on both sides of this. There are people who are, well, I actually don't really know anyone that's anti-education, but everyone has a budget. Everyone in life has a budget. So when I hear these numbers of 40, 50, 60, that's just not reality. That is not what this board has in mind. Again, I'm not going to speak for the Budget Committee. I just want to speak for this board. And we'll be opening this up in a minute. I don't believe there's going to be cuts to the music program, cuts to athletics. I'm not seeing these teacher cuts. Do I know for a fact that there'll be less teachers at Timberlane next year? You're damn right I do, because I know we have a shrinking population, and I know the superintendent knows how to run the place better than I do. So he's not going to, if you have a certain course of study that people are leaving, and if there's 6 members of that course of study, and for the following academic year you need 4, that's what he'll do. I'm very confident he'll do it. So I don't expect him to be involved in any type of overstaffing. I'm very confident he's very capable of knowing with his staff what happens at the teacher level. Now, he and I we're not always, as you can well imagine, we're not always on the same page, and that's okay. I can work with this gentleman, he does a good job, and I'm trying to here represent this board and bring information back to the board so we as a board can make intelligent decisions. I expect us all to, we don't necessarily have to agree with each other, but when you're talking money issues here, some people can get a little emotional about it, and different people have their causes. I think you have not heard from this board, and you will not hear from this board, looking at 60, 70, 80 people. That's just not there. We're not looking to drop $8 to $10 million. That's just not in the cards. And it's a process. It was brought out by some speakers earlier tonight, and I'm well aware of that also. That basically is Timberlane is currently in a downward population trend. And maybe 2 or 3 years from now, it swings back the other way. We can only project what's immediately in front of us. So I have no idea what's going to happen 10 years from now. When it comes, the future boards will deal with it properly. So, again, now, Dr. Metzler, one of his, I think in his $5.5 million proposed cuts, there was some administrators and there was some teachers, and there might have some support staff, and it was spread out, as it should have been. I tonight, so the Budget Committee can keep doing their job. This board authorizes hiring. The Budget Committee, the funding board. So the Budget Committee can raise money, they can lower money. They can't approve hiring. That's just not in their bailiwick. This board is the board that approves positions. Earlier tonight, this board approved a course of study. We have different tasks that we do. When I look at the overall administration, I think this is where it makes the most sense to go after a budget reduction. I believe you're talking 10 slots, half of which are already gone. I mean, two of them are gone, and 2 or 3 are already in the works of being combined. So you're probably talking 4 or 5 additional slots. This is the first time that we've talked about this as a board. And we are now today at December 7th here. This board, as well as the Budget Committee, have to put together a budget to meet public hearing deadlines, to meet state deadlines. So this will not be our final meeting on dollar matters, but what I would like from the board here tonight to entertain a motion here to deal with the cut with proposed administrative cuts. I'm not even. People can present motions as they so please. I'm not looking at anything to do with support staff or teaching staff. I expect those kind of things will happen on their own under the management of the superintendent in the spring when he has all his tools available to him. Right now, he doesn't. He doesn't know if there's 5 people leaving or if there's 35 people leaving. So when he has the ability to deal with other stuff, if it's even needed, that will be dealt with, I'm guessing, in the spring. And I really don't know. Well, I'll be here, but who will be on the board? And that'll be up to future boards to deal with what happens after the election. So tonight, this board has the authority and has the, what we have to address budgetary thing, because, yeah, whatever it is, 80% of the budget or more are people. They're not canned goods, they're not buildings. This is, the budget at Timberlane, budget in the school district are personnel. That's what it is. So we recognize the importance of this job, and I don't take it lightly. And I believe that the suggested cuts are not, if you're the individual, whoever that person, whoever he or she may be, yes, that's probably draconian to that person. But when I'm looking at a staff of 500-plus people, and you're talking 10 people, that is not, in 2017, that is not as draconian, whatever you want to use. That's this board, by vote, acting responsibility. And again, we are in a declining student enrollment. We have been in declining student enrollment. The immediate future is showing that. But I want everyone out there, in this building, and anyone at home watching, I recognize that you can't just every year go up $2, $3, or $4 million. I recognize that. I recognize that these buildings need a lot more than improvement to the PAC. I recognize, being the father of a teacher, that I've known myself that the teachers in the district are underpaid by the state of New Hampshire. I know this. I think this part of what I ran, we have to show our tax base, earn back what I believe is some lost respect, so we can move ahead. I don't look at people as anti-Timberlane. If someone is not 100% behind a budget line item, that doesn't mean you're against Timberlane. It doesn't mean you're in my world. So I find it, quite frankly, a little offensive when people challenge certain members of the board, that if I'm not going to vote for $1 or $2, $3 million, then I'm against Timberlane, and that's nonsense. You know, I've been in this area for over 30 years. I've got 3 kids I raised through this system. They're all doing fantastic. We plan on staying in Atkinson, and this is our school. So I'm very, very pro Timberlane, very pro the district. But I'm trying to act responsibly, and that's what I'm going to do. And so with that being said, I'll open up the floor to Kim.
I'll start. I'm looking at draft 2 of the budget cut additions here, and I'd like to go down to the administrative lines to start. I did not attend the rest of the budget committee meeting, but I did listen to it, so I am apprised of what was said at that meeting. Mr. Dowd, I understand from these admin lines that there are 8 actual personnel lines within here that are, or positions that are being cut from here. Is that correct?
So 8 lines.
8
That'd be correct, yeah.
positions.
No?
No, not 8 positions.
11 and a half positions
In 8 lines.
in 8
8
lines.
budget lines.
There are 11 and a half positions being cut from this? I don't,
So the one that's what,
It's an 11.5 FTE, that's what it is. It's 12 people.
You can see, if you go up a little further, at the 1100, 112 line, 25 TTA are listed.
okay,
under
but
one budget line. Well,
when I look at these budget lines, when I look at 2213, 111, 01, 334, that brings me to administrative salaries hyphen professional improvement. Is that not correct?
It's, if that's what that document says.
I mean, I'd appreciate if you go to that line.
Sure.
Those lines, and I'll jump in here for Mr. Dowd, those lines are not to, they're placeholders for potential administrative positions. They are not meant to identify any particular position, nor have we made any decisions about what particular positions they would be. So I asked him to get real numbers from any of the different lines, and these are the lines that he used to get some numbers. So I'm going to say it one more time. They do not identify any specific positions in any way, shape, or form. So reading into the lines to try to figure out what they are, you're wasting your time, because they won't. These are just
Okay.
places to get some money to
Okay.
get to the
All right.
$5.5 million reduction that I was directed to do by the Budget Committee.
Okay, so let me put this a different way then. Those admin lines, which I total up to be $908,000, $908,800, correct?
Okay, I'll trust your math, yeah.
Represent
12.
full-time equivalents.
11.5 FTEs, 12 people.
I'll make a motion to cut those 11.5 FTEs
Second.
From what?
from the budget. The budget committee needs to have an understanding. The budget committee cannot cut positions. The budget committee needs to have direction from the school board as to which lines can be reduced in their proposed operating budget, so they can then make a determination of where they're going. Am I incorrect on that?
The only thing that you're not correct on is you can't cut positions out of a budget that you don't have in your hands yet. You can make recommendations to the Budget Committee. They're actually doing draft 3, I'm not. They asked for my priorities, not the school board's. I gave them the priorities, and they're making draft 3. That was, if you watched the meeting, you saw how that played out.
Right,
I
right.
was as surprised as you were, but that's what it is.
I
So
know,
they
and
have
so-
my priorities, administrative priorities, out of the proposed budget. There's no surprises here. The priorities were people. And so, again, you can make a recommendation to the Budget Committee to put draft 3, but I'm not doing draft 3.
Okay, okay. Maybe.
It's a recommendation, it's
can you
not a cut.
Now I have your second, maybe what I,
All right, my second's out there. I'm not withdrawing it.
But-
I'd just like to say that the school board gets to put forward its own budget, because when public hearing comes, there are two columns. There are the Budgets Committee recommendation column, and there's the school board recommendation column, and both of those columns go to public hearing, and that is the basis for a lot of debate. Prior history in Timberlane, the two columns have been identical. This year, they may be different.
Okay, Peter?
But the point, my point, I'm sorry, but my point is that what, the decisions we make here have a bearing on the budget that we put forward to the public, whether or not the Budget Committee agrees with us. But our purpose is twofold. One, to help the Budget Committee by expressing our desire, and certainly by indicating what we want to see in terms of staffing, which is our domain, but also to give the public an alternate vision of the budget.
Peter?
Can I just, I think to Ms. Sherman's point, because it was before my time, so I think your historic reference is inaccurate, because I do believe in the past there have been exactly what you talked about, long before you were here or I was here.
I was here a long time before you, Mrs. Green.
Okay, well, okay.
And we've had those kinds of budgets, so it's, I mean, it's happened in
It's-
the past. It happens in
okay.
towns too.
Sure. Peter?
Okay, just want to make sure everybody else
Sure,
is
yeah,
good with
yeah.
that. I have a couple points to make. But I may go on for a minute or two. First is, well, you gave a nice speech, but I didn't hear a lot, frankly. It sounded good. I don't understand why we're trying to, or we think we know enough at this point to cut administrators from a future, that a future board should be cutting, not us. The board that's elected in March should be doing that. We should be letting the Budget Committee do their jobs. If anything, we should be working on warrant articles, in my opinion, CIP schedules, CIP issues, and looking at the default that Attorney Dowd will be presenting, I don't know if it's tonight or some future night. Just willy-nilly throwing a number out, let's get rid of 11 administrators, is a little, without knowing anything, is a little kind of crazy. I think at the very, I'm not done, please. At a very minimum, even if it wasn't the next board's job to really look at that part, we should be going to the superintendent and asking, you know, what, if we cut this, or if we cut that, what would the support, what would the administration and, you know, management of the district look like? At a very minimum. Again, this is, but this discussion is preliminary and really not our business at this point. We really ought to stop wasting time and go on and look at things that we legally and appropriately can address.
Couldn't disagree with you more. So, this board, we are the board right now. So, part of the duties of this board is to do, I believe, what we're doing. Now, the board, whether it's the same or changes in March or April, they have a whole other set of decisions to make. They'll be involved in preparing the following year's budget. So I disagree with that. Now, I have a question on this, because I don't know where the 12 is coming from, but the positions I referred to that were eliminated by vote a couple months ago, are those on that budget, I understand? I understand the positions that this board eliminated are they still in the budget?
Those are presented to the budget committee, yes.
Why?
Discussion.
Those are in my proposed budget.
Was your proposed budget?
Those are in the 75.1. They were removed when the budget committee directed me to come back with a second draft at 69.6.
So of those 12 FTEs that I just mentioned, 2 positions right now are not filled. Actually, 3 of those positions are not filled right now. Is that correct?
3?
Maybe 3.
I-
At least 3 that I can think of, yeah.
3.
Yes, 3. Okay.
Those were in the proposed budget. My proposed budget, let's not confuse things again. My proposed budget was the first draft. That was what I proposed. You asked me what we needed. There's some interventionists in there. There's other things. Those are all proposed. You can say yes, you can say no, whatever that, you know, that's what a proposal's all about. It's not like, oh my goodness, why are you asking for all this stuff? You ask for what we need, we tell you, and then you work back to figure out what you can afford. And so then I got a directive from the budget committee to come back with 69.6, and I showed you one way that it might look like. Again, when the board that has this actual budget in their hands and has the resources, they'll decide how to use it, one way or another. So whatever that bottom line budget is, they could want more out, they could want more in. They're gonna spend it how they see fit. They're gonna ask, what do we think, what's the best way to deliver the services to the children in this district based on the number that you get? So the short answer to your question is, you know, are there several positions in my proposed budget that are not filled? Yeah, there's a few of them. There's 5 interventionists that aren't filled too. Those are proposals. We said, what do you need? Well, we need interventionists. Well, you can't have them. Well, obviously they're not filled if I just asked for them, right? And so I asked for
Oh, yeah,
administrators.
no, I understand that, but
Okay.
I'm not certain everybody out there understands it. So this is what I'm saying is, I just put forth a motion to eliminate 12 FTEs.
I know, they
just
don't.
want people to understand that 3 of those positions are currently not filled.
Well, help them understand too that draft 2 is not my proposal. That was a directive that I responded to from the budget committee. That's another misunderstanding. That's not my proposal. My proposal was draft 1.
Well,
Yeah. This is how I addressed a directive from the
is-
budget committee.
This is how you address the directive, and as you
Thank
said
you.
last time, you tried to do it the fairest way across the board. You weren't married to it, and you didn't think it was great. So, I agree. I didn't like this. I can tell you right now, my constituents, Danville is suffering under taxes. I am for keeping as many teachers in here and support staff as we possibly can, and understanding that, as the chair said, we have got to gain somewhere on this budget, because I know we have a TTA contract coming up, and I know our teachers are below the state average. So I am looking to try to do the best we can to to make a budget cut without affecting, I'm a teacher myself, the person that is standing in front of those students. So when I'm making this cut, I'm not doing it lightly.
No, I
I
understand.
do not like making these cuts. I do not like it when teachers talk to my daughter about my actions on the school board, and if anybody's sitting here, please don't do it again. So I'm just trying to let people understand that when we're making some of these positions that are being eliminated, there are not, I know some people are gonna get hurt here, but 12 here is 9 FTEs that are employed right now.
And I understand what you're saying, but you gotta remember, we spent 2 school board meetings talking about how we're gonna support the teachers. Administrative staff and the support staff. It's a team effort. This is not a one-man game. This is a collective effort of all these people that do an outstanding job supporting each other. It's not like, hey, we're gonna keep the teachers but get rid of you. This is a collective thing. So we looked at this collectively. There's a disproportionate amount of administrators in draft 2 being eliminated as compared to the percentages in the other categories. Disproportionate. Highest number. Do the averages. Look how many of the percentages. But again, we're trying to put together the best team, and this is not ideal. I don't like it. I don't. That's why this is not my proposal. We're going to do the best we can with what you give us to work with. We got great people, and again, Mrs. Green's point, whether it was sarcastic or not. No, I wouldn't put something in front of you that I couldn't do if I had to. It's not the best. If we're playing shorthanded, we're still going to try to get a shorthanded goal and win the game, right? We may have less players on the ice than the other teams, but it's not ideal. But if you gave me 4 goalies and I put all the goalies in net, I bet you we'll stop more pucks. Well, we can't afford 4 goalies. I get it. We want to do the best we can. But again, you need to remember, this is a team. This is support both ends. Administrators support teachers, support staff support teachers. They all support each other, and it's a family, and they all work together. And that's why the people are the priority. People are the priority. So when they ask for the priorities, I said it would be the people. Draft.
Certainly.
I thought I would be a draft 3 with the people back in, and now the budget committee said, give us your priorities. They have them. And so I understand Mr. Beal. It's a little premature to be talking about what you think you need to do with this, but to give some direction in the event that I'm asked to do draft 3 at some point, or Attorney Dowd is, I get that too. I can tell you if we have to reduce, of course I'm going to have to look at administrators, I'm going to have to look at everything. But everything's on the table, and we're trying to do the best we can to make sure that we maintain those services. So I apologize for rambling on. I'm sorry, Sue, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm listening.
Mr. Sherman.
Well, I do find it interesting that the first thing, we say we care about the human beings here, but the first thing we go at are 11.5 or 12 or whatever number you want to play with, human beings. Instead of, some people won't like this, let's see if we can clean up some of the projects. So the night we were together, I sat next to Greg, and I went through, if it were me, what I would say, I'll cut that, I don't want to cut that, I'd go through it. When I get down to human beings, said, no, I'm not cutting any of those. But why do we go right after the humans instead of going after some of these CIP projects that I don't want to cut either? I don't want to cut anything, but that's just me. But the human beings, that's the first thing you do, boom, and that's what some of you ran on, that you were going to go after these administrators. So the first proposal is to cut the deans, cut the administration. I don't get it.
That is not my first proposal. I'm sorry, maybe I need to caveat what I did. I'm assuming, I made the assumption, believe me, before any personnel came out, that every single item that is not a person is still out of this budget. And I apologize if that did not come across clearly. In my mind, nothing that's not a person is going back in this budget. People will be the first thing back in that budget. But even if I take all those numbers out of those, all that equipment, everything, we're still not at a number that is going to be sustainable. We were told at the last meeting that our surplus probably will be less, right? Because you said that we are running above what we did last year to date, correct? Correct. So even at a level funded budget, we are looking at an increase, a potential increase in taxes. So, Sue, I'm sorry, it was my fault, I apologize. Equipment always comes out before people, and I apologize for saying that I didn't make that clear. Thank you, Sue.
Dan?
Just to clarify a couple things, the thing that did go back in already into the budget is the ice hockey, swimming, and ski team. That stuff's already back in the budget. That's not people. What does this, Ms. Belcher, can you read this motion back that they made?
Motion, Dr. Fair motioned to cut 11.5 FTE from the budget, and it was seconded by Mrs. Green.
What budget?
No, it wasn't just 11.5 FTEs, it was 11.5 administrator
From the
FTEs.
administrative lines, it was not 11.5 FTEs.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So what budget? And, I mean, are you recommending to cut them right now? Next year? The way your motion reads, you're just saying to cut these, not to recommend to the budget committee to cut these. So that's what I'm trying to clarify.
Hold on a second. Does the school board present its own budget at public hearing?
No.
No,
We have not for a long time.
you can, but you don't.
We can, but we
Well,
don't.
You potentially could, but typically you would let the budget committee do their job before you try to do it for them. That's typically how it would work.
I don't understand.
I can say it again, you let the budget committee do what the budget committee is supposed to do, and the school board does what the school board's supposed to do. So the budget committee's not done with their work yet.
Well, okay.
You have a default budget, obviously that's yours.
The budget committee has no authority without going through this board of increasing staff or decreasing staff.
They come up with a bottom line.
They come up with a bottom line,
Which they've done in the past.
okay?
Yeah, they're on the wrong path too, talking about positions. That's
Okay.
not their business either.
Well,
whose
okay,
business is it?
well, it's this board's position. So it's by statute, it's this board's position. So to me, and again, the budget committee, they can speak for themselves, but they bottom line it, as you just said, they cannot sit back and say, hey, school board, we want you to hire another 40 people. They just don't have, they can raise money, they can do that, and then this board tonight would have that authority to sit back and say, go ahead, Dr. Metzler, go hire 40 people. The budget committee can go prepare a budget, go through deliberative session, the voters approve the budget, great. But they don't have that authority to sit back and throw personnel or decrease personnel. They just have a financial authority.
I'd like to amend my motion.
Could I just make a response to that, please, because it will affect how you might amend your motion. Perhaps what we should be doing instead of addressing the budget is addressing positions. We should take a position as a board that we're eliminating X number of positions out of the non-teaching professionals. That's how it's reported to the DOE. We want to reduce non-teaching professionals by 11.5 FTEs, and therefore, they cannot be funded because the positions aren't going to be there. So rather than saying we want to take it out of the budget and, the budget committee can do what they want, we should just make a motion to eliminate those positions as a board so they cannot be funded.
No way. No way. That opens it up to nurses, it opens it up to,
Guidance. What's a non-teaching professional? I'm interested to hear that.
Classroom interventionists.
as far as I'm concerned, they're all teachers. In some capacity, they all teach.
It's just what they
Every
call
single
it
one
in
of them.
state level.
Well, that's great. It was great for a good applause line, but let me, unfortunately, share with you guys some bad news. You guys should know this better than me. If you're all teachers, you'd all receive the same pay and benefits. You don't. Now, why is that? Because you're all in different positions. You're all dedicated Timberlane staff employees. So that's not to belittle, praise, or anything teacher. So you aren't all teachers. Maybe you are all teachers or were former teachers, but you perform several different things. If you're a nurse, you may have been a teacher. But that's why you are paid properly as a principal, an assistant principal, a guidance counselor. So this board, and oh, by the way, I'm kind of surprised because you have a couple of union people here. They should know better that one union represents this group of people, another union represents this group of people, that they're not the same. They're not the same bargaining agreement. Listen to what they are. So we, as a board, I'm closer to Mrs. Green's thought process here. I'm personally thinking of, as I said earlier, I'm thinking of 10 because I already know that 3 of those positions, they've already been voted on and dealt with. So now I'm looking at the remaining 7. That's what I'm looking at. Now, the Budget Committee cannot just randomly, as they come to the conclusion of their vote, they can't just randomly make decisions on staffing because they just don't have that authority. So I certainly hope, and I expect the Budget Committee, when it's all said and done, to have done some, and I'm confident they will. They're not going to sit back and just bottom line it and just say, here's the number, deal with it. I certainly hope that's not what they're going to do. I certainly hope they have some rationale. I have some rationale what I'm doing, and I'll say it again. You're looking at approximately $1.8 million of increases that we will honor on retirement pay and contracts, period. There's no debate about it. Those are going to be honored. So that you have to plan on that for next year. What I'm trying to do is get some kind of budget reduction to offset the bulk of that, so we can stabilize things. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm not trying to. It does not involve, as I said earlier, 50, 60, 70, 80 people. That's not what's going on here. So, if people think that we can just every year go up and up and up, and then when we go to take care of our teachers next year, and then within a year or so, we're going to have to put some money into our facilities. If people think that there's an endless appetite by the taxpayer, I'm not seeing it. Now, I know everyone in the room is also a taxpayer too. I get that. So we're here again representing our constituents to the best of our ability. So I know there was a motion on the floor, and Kim was going to amend it. Okay.
I would like to amend the motion to say for the 18-19 academic year or school year. To Mr. Guide's point, you're right. I did not clarify when I meant that. I did not mean them immediately as of today. I meant them for the 18-19 school year. So I'd like to amend my motion to include that statement.
So your motion is?
We can, I'm the.
Need a second for her amendment.
I'll second it.
What is the motion?
Can you read back the original motion? And then we'll talk the, could you please read the
The motion
original?
will now read to cut 11.5 FTE administrators from the 18-19 school year. Is that what you're intending?
Correct, or budget year. I'm not sure what the correct.
18-19 school year budget.
School year budget, thank you.
Peter?
Couple points. First is, this is extraordinarily irresponsible, in my opinion. Just, arm waving and saying, there's no 40, 50, 60 teachers being affected because I say so, because that's what I believe, is kind of like faith-based budgeting and faith-based planning for, the future. Kind of arm waving and saying, well, I need this much money, so I'm just gonna, I just want to eliminate this many administrators, without really understanding, having really no idea of how that'll impact the school district, is I think difficult for me to comprehend, and I certainly can't go along with that. And I've heard a lot. By the way, and I'm a representative of the town that has the lowest median income in this district, and the lowest or second lowest value per home in the district. So if anybody should be screaming poverty, it should be me. And I'll tell you, you know, I'm not seeing it in the other towns. Yeah, okay, no one likes to pay taxes. I cut my check last week for my taxes and handed it in, and in general, I wasn't pleased, but I didn't whine about it. I paid my taxes. I hear some people say, well, we're being taxed out of this. You know, people can't afford to live here. I've heard that, you know, in Atkinson, from an Atkinson rep, I've heard that from, you know, various people in other towns. But geez, you know, people can't live here so much that they're building how many units in Atkinson now? Up on North Main Street off on the right-hand side?
60 condominiums? 60?
60.
Condominiums, like, yeah, okay.
Okay.
350 to $400,000 homes, is that what you mean?
Yeah, you know, so if people are moving out, I mean, builders aren't dumb, Brian. I don't think you're a stupid person. I don't think builders are stupid people. A lot of them are a lot brighter than I am. If they think they can sell those units and people can afford them, they'll build them. They wouldn't be building them otherwise. How many units are going into Sandtown apartments?
What's your point?
It just belies the fact that, as a whole, you know, the whole people are moving out. They can't afford. They can't. You know, they're going to be empty houses. People can't afford this. Is not true. Okay, you don't build all these new homes, all these new dwellings, multiple builders, multiple investors, if people aren't going to buy them.
Well, being a builder, not currently building in New Hampshire, but I can tell you that you're not seeing the building that there's 60 units being proposed, being built in Atkinson, will be built over the next probably 2 or 3 years. I think they're gonna, you know, they've been, actually the units that I think you're referring to right now are F-121. I think those are being sold in the upper 300s to about 400.
Yeah,
Those
two
are the condos.
bedroom,
Condos.
2-bedroom, 2
So-
bath condos in around 400 or change.
Those are medium price homes in New England. These aren't millionaires, or, you know, these are just regular people.
That's not the point. So
They're just regular
people can't afford to build it, according to that builder.
I'm not sure what builder's saying that. I'm not saying people.
He wouldn't be building otherwise, would he?
I'd like to get back
I don't
to
think.
the budget and
I was just going to say. I don't think this is a builder issue. To me, people you build something, people buy. That's not even 1% of the real estate market, new construction. You know, so I mean, I don't see. No one's calling my house, telling me they're losing their home. I hope they aren't, but I'm not talking to that level. But I think it's so I know who you're referring to, but it wasn't me saying that.
No,
okay,
it wasn't you.
so but I'm basing mine on. Actually, I've been in this district, not as long as Sue, but I've been in this district for 30 years, and I have seen and experienced the Timberlane success, and when people go the other way and say, okay, I want to just increase this program, this kind of stuff, and that's okay. So if you start,
I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that. I'm not seeing that. So
okay,
I'm not quite sure where that's coming from.
It's coming from me right now. So what I'm saying is that, so what I'm suggesting is we, part of our duty is and we all go about it in our own ways, is to act in a fiscally responsible manner. Everyone has their own version of what that is. Okay, so you and I obviously are in different opinion of what, and that's fine. That what you feel is a reasonable budget for next year. What I feel a reasonable budget. But I get it. I
just don't see the justification, Brian. I'm not seeing
justification.
The whole time out. The educational and organizational justification.
I would love to see that, Peter, but apparently we cannot see that because we cannot get that now, can we? Because I would love to see it too, because you've stopped me a couple times because I try to go down that route. We cannot see that. All we can do is base it on our best guess based on what I'm seeing that the superintendent is proposing here. That's all. believe me, if it were up to me, I'd want the new organizational chart right in front of me. And that would be it. So I could have a bet. I do not like doing it this way, believe you me. I would rather know exactly what it was, and if that's what the rest of the board wants, I'm for it, but then, you know, you're kind of blocking the superintendent, and I do wanna go back to your comment about let the next board do it. That next board is saddled with whatever budget we come up with. It is our responsibility as the elected officials to construct a budget or make recommendations to the budget committee, and as Brian said, the budget committee has to have some understanding of what we feel this district can be managed on from a personnel point of view.
In me, before Donna, before I recognize you, I don't want to tie the superintendent's hands. I would rather, the number I mentioned earlier was 10, 3 of them are already gone or vacant, so we're talking an additional 6 or 7. I'd rather have his expertise. This is what this is going to look like. I don't want to sit back and say, okay, let's go down our buildings. Let's go down the buildings here, and we're going to list all the grammar schools. I don't want to do that. I want to sit back and I'm looking at administrators overall. I'm very confident that he has ability to move that asset, which is that staff member, as he sees the best way to service the district. And that's why I was looking at a number. I'm not about to go down and play superintendent. So.
But you could ask, as I asked earlier, or suggested earlier, in worst case, you could ask the superintendent to put an org chart together and review it with us, in non-pub, by the way, I suspect, non-public, about what the organization would look like. Not the names, the organization. And no one's asked that. Instead, it's like, I just want to cut this number of people and hope and pray that he can deal with it. Because I want plausible deniability that I had anything to do with whatever disaster comes down the pike. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
That's what you're hearing, so I will let the superintendent speak for himself. Let me just tell you this. We have had several conversations over the past 3 or 4 months, myself and the superintendent. Some have involved Dr. Ferris, some haven't, of what this would look like. He, and I understand it, he knows, he has better information in April than he does in December. Unfortunately, the budget is now. So he will know. No one should be pushed out the door. If people want to work here, as long as they want to work here. So.
But that's not relevant.
Oh, it is very relevant.
To me, the organization has nothing to do with who's leaving and who isn't leaving voluntarily.
I disagree. I disagree. So when you're making a management, we're like a board of directors, and you're sitting down with your CEO, you're looking at this thing. He has certain cards he can play in the next 30 days, if a director from this board. He has more cards he can play after the voters speak, knowing how much money the voters approve, and then knowing what the total staff looks like in April. This right now is a best guess. I think it's probably not that far off, but I'm sure it's about 95 to 98% accurate. There's no guarantee of what this looks like, but I believe that I still maintain that this is what we should be doing, and we can't just. I won't. I'm not going to sit back and randomly sit back and say, you know what, I'm not weighing in on the budget, and I'm just going to leave it up to the budget committee. I don't see that happening. It's just not going to happen. Donna.
Thank you. Since 2008, so in the last 10 years, the cost per pupil by the New Hampshire Department of Education's way of calculating it, Timberlane's cost per pupil has gone up 48%. If you divide the number of pupils by our budget, so the gross budget per pupil, it's gone up 63% in 10 years. That is clearly unsustainable. That is clearly a situation crying for better management, and that's what we are trying to do here. We are grappling with a situation that is out of control, and we're trying to rein it in to get some kind of semblance of fiscal management so that when we need to go to the taxpayers in a couple of years and ask them for some capital infusion, they will believe that we are good stewards of their money. Now, I am not of the opinion that every capital improvement has to be cut before we touch an employee, because we have, in my opinion, 97 superfluous employees. Unfortunately, we're overstaffed. It's not to say people aren't working hard. It's not to say they're not doing a job. It's to say we have too many. And so you've made a position that you don't like the deans, that the dean structure, not the individual deans, but the whole dean, the concept of the dean structure is anathema to you. We have a philosophical problem with the structure in this administration right now. And you are trying to address it, and Dr. Farah is trying to address it, to eliminate the deans, the whole dean structure. Let's be honest. That's what we're trying to do.
No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, that's not the case. No.
So if that's not what you're doing, all right, I'm still in favor of cutting 11.5 FTEs, because that is just the beginning. We have 97 staff that does not have a corresponding function in other districts with similar size. That's why our cost per pupil is up 63%.
Well, we're not.
We have a problem, and to say,
In your opinion.
and to say that we should strangle our district of all capital improvements before we lay off anybody is unreasonable to me. We have too many people right now.
Okay, but before you get to me,
And by the way, we have 675 staff, okay? At our height, we had 697 staff.
Okay,
That's 23%,
okay, Donna,
23
listen,
less.
okay, well, again, no one's even, that's just not happening. On any board where you're talking anywhere near those kind of numbers of 80, 90 people, that's just not happening.
And I'm not saying we should do it in 1 year.
Yeah,
What I'm
well,
saying is we
just-
can't starve ourselves of capital
Okay.
to protect staff that is too much.
Kelly?
Can I ask Donna a question?
Sure.
And the 63% that you're talking about, how much of that is the loss of funding from the state over those 10 years?
This is the gross budget per pupil. That means how much we spend.
How much did we lose?
That has nothing to do with what we're losing. It's how much it's costing us to run the district.
Right, and we get money from the state to offset what we have to pay out of that. If it costs X, we don't have to pay the entire thing because we get some money from the state to
Look,
offset it.
it's how much our budget is. It's how much our budget. You take our budget, you
Wait,
divide
well,
it by
why
the
don't we
number
talk
of
about
kids.
how much each town is taxed, not the
Okay.
budget then?
All right, each
Okay.
town, the tax for each town has
Right.
gone up 36% in 10 years.
Let's bring this back.
36%.
We're gonna bring this back to the general discussion here. Mrs. Sherman?
Yes, thank you, because that's what I wanted to suggest, that we bring it back to the motion that's on the floor.
Yep.
And the amendment that's on the floor. And I'm gonna tell you why I'm voting no, because this is way too many people to let go in this system. These people, whoever they are, in whatever positions they are, whether they're vice principals, principals, support staff of any kind, deans, head teachers, whatever term you want to use, all work with kids and teachers to make teachers better and to make kids better. And I do not believe, because we've lost 1,000 kids in the last 10 years, that the needs of those 1,000 less kids have changed. They've gotten bigger. amendment.
Okay, and Dan?
I'll go after.
Yeah, I think, I personally think that if you guys want to do this, that we should let BudCom set the budget and then do it after that.
See what we have.
That's my point. I mean, you have the TTA saying they want more support and everything, and you guys are all like, let's cut some people. Well, you're cutting the people that will give those people the support. Let's wait and see what BudCom comes up with the budget, and then decide if you want to cut the positions or not. Doing it beforehand doesn't make any sense to me. It's a little reckless too.
Greg, before I recognize you, there,
I
a lot of things, wait 1 second. Just please. The student population is down, but the administrative staff in that same time frame is up. So,
The needs are up.
okay, so apparently the needs are more at Timberlane than they are in other similar schools.
Londonderry has more administrators than Timberlane does.
I don't believe that's true.
No,
I don't
it
believe that's a
isn't
true
true.
statement. That's not a true statement.
It is not
So, so I think that you got to look at the whole picture here. Greg?
This is a tough conversation to have, and I know a lot of great people are here, and everyone's spending a lot of time on the budget. A lot of our families are here and rooted here. We love this area. I take a little different spin on this, where Dr. Farrah's not here by chance, all right? Donna Green's not here by chance, all right? Stephanie Tooby's not here by chance. The community is asking for some type of change and trying to lower the budget. Obviously, we love our children, we love our teachers, we love all the buildings we use, and I just wish, and I know Dr. Metzel works his heart out and we're all working hard, but I just wish the administration saw this 6 months ago, or when these people were here, and that there is a change going on. So we wouldn't be here on a Thursday night where we're all really kind of just really fired up over this. I feel torn. I hear Brian and Kim's motion. I understand it. I mean, I have 6 kids, and paying the bills is real. It's becoming a challenge. We're all trying to make ends meet. However, the love and care that the teachers give our kids, it's priceless. Would there be a chance maybe to do maybe 5 or 6, and then table the other? You said we're going to meet again.
You already got 3 gone.
Yeah.
You mean 5 or 6 on
I'm saying
top
go
of
2 or
3
3.
already gone.
I'm saying go 2 or 3 more, and then table the second half. Like maybe don't do the 11.5 tonight. You said we'll meet again, right? You said before.
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
me personally, I'd like to meet with more.
I don't know what's going to change. I mean, I don't think, let's.
Brian, just from a technical standpoint.
Sure.
So to Greg's point, I think we're asking for a little more time. And I think, to Greg's point, it's about the budget. It's really about the bottom line, lowering the bottom line, and how you lower the bottom line. I don't think that 69.6 number is going to go so far up that everything on this sheet is going back in. You follow
Correct.
me?
Yes, I do. Yes,
so
I agree with you.
It's what's the I know, the bottom line, how comfortable with the bottom line, and so if it's 12, or if it was 10, or if it was 8, or 7, or 6, we buy some time, you find out what happens, and you see what you have for resources, and like I said, you have time, you have January, you have February, you have March to look at what the resources are gonna look like, and then decide that you still have input in the following year. The number doesn't change on the bottom, you change how you spend the number. It doesn't have to be on December 7th to change the bottom number. They're not going to, the bottom number is not going to go so high because you didn't take action tonight on these administrative positions. We all know that, right? They're going to keep, they're looking at that bottom line number, whether you do anything with these positions or not. Brian and I are going to meet, and obviously I got to, at some point in draft 3, figure out how to make that number, unless they make it for me by just looking at this. I know they're looking for some guidance. They've heard a lot. I'm sure they're watching. I'm sure. But I don't sense the urgency tonight to take action on 12 people when you could do that at any point between now and April, when when all 9 of you are still here, regardless of the 3 seats that may or may not be open. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, before,
Sorry, can I just, the reason I feel there's some urgency to do this is that in your draft two, you've got admin, you've got TTA, you've got TSSU. We know, at least it appears to me, BudCom is not gonna come up too much from that number.
No.
And I want them to understand, at least, and I might, I'd be willing to concede that this is maybe what we wanna, what I'm trying to get across by this motion is that, based on what I see, if we have to move to cut personnel, I wanna see what it's gonna do if we say we cut 11.5 FTEs from admin. We know we've already have 3 unfilled slots, so we're talking about 8.5 that.
2 were proposed, 1's an open position.
One's an open position, right, I know, they're unfilled. And I wanna see if that motion passes and we have these 11.5 full FTEs, we ask the business administrator to work the numbers back in for FICA, retirement, and health, and see what that conglomerate number looks like, because I think it's gonna give the BudCom committee a better idea of where they might stand in terms of personnel. I personally feel I would rather look at those administrative lines before I move down into the teachers and the TSSU.
Well,
That's just my opinion.
the chairman has made it very clear of where he wants me to look first, right? I mean, it's not a mystery, right? I don't think, so, we're looking at the bottom line, what are the resources, and how we go from there. Now, what we will know and he's right, what we will know in April, we will know what the bus contract looks like. We will know if we had a warm winter or not. We will know whether or not we save money on snow removal. And there's a lot, I know that's in 17, 18, but then there are trends, that it frees up some money. Not that we're rolling over money to pay for the following year, I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying, there are things that we will know. The bus contract will help us, and some of the other things. So we'll have a better idea what that 1819 bottom line needs to address. Does that make sense? Like, what if we save $500,000 on the bus contract? I mean, or 400,000, I don't know.
Right, and by April or May, this board changes over, and the fact that this board cut 12 FTEs can be changed in April just like that.
I know, but there's no need to create that kind of disruption to the climate and culture, because it doesn't really change the outcome.
But how are we changing the climate and culture, because we've not specifically identified people, and we also know that when the new board sits
Here's what the problem with that is. No, here's what the problem with that is. Everybody does scenario generators and everybody thinks it's them. And that has an impact on your climate and your culture, and it's not necessary. It's everybody's okay until they're not okay. Then we have very private conversations. I had a conversation with the chairman today about maybe taking a look at extending the retirement date to April 1st for administrators, because we have some people that may need more time to think about whether or not they wanted to work next year. So they're not under the gun to get us to January 1st. It still gives us time. Still gives us time. You're asking again, you're talking about an organizational chart. We're talking 2 different things. We're talking positions, we're talking people and skill set. And I can tell you right now, whatever I put together right now, it would look completely different probably in the spring. Completely different. Based on, because the people are going to change. Some people may get promotions like we had last year. We had a couple people, congratulations, they moved on, they got principalships and those sorts of things. We have a great farm team of people ready to step into some roles. I'd rather protect all of our valuable assets and not rock the climate and culture in a way that's not necessary at this point. It still doesn't change your ability to do what you need to do. And the position that the chair has made is very clear. Like, when that number comes in, I want you to look here first. Then, can you do this and still do projects and, have the least amount of impact on people, right?
The chair has made that clear, but this board has not weighed in on that.
Right,
And that's
right.
important to do.
Correct.
And right now, this culture and climate affects the TTA, the TSSU, and the admins, because of the way this draft 2 is.
When something
So-
happens to a family, it happens to everybody in the family.
I understand that, but you're identifying every single, I understand what you're saying, I think you understand what I'm saying, so I guess we'll just agree to have a difference of our view on this.
Yeah, I don't know if we disagree. I just think, I don't sense the urgency. I don't see that it's, on December 7th, we need to, when a lot of things could change between now and when that decision, it's the same people, it's not, I'm not suggesting a different board, it's the same people can do the same thing at a time when it's probably less disruptive and probably won't have as great an impact. You probably won't be talking as many people. I just,
We won't be talking, I don't understand what you're saying.
you probably won't be talking as many people, because there's two things, there's positions, like you said, those two vacated, the two positions that are not, that were proposed that aren't filled, that are in addition to, and the one vacated, it doesn't really affect the person. It has no, there's no human element to it,
No, I understand.
right? So
Yeah.
there might be less of that in several months from now than there is tonight.
Correct.
There might be. And that's better, you don't think that that's better for the climate and culture?
Of course it is.
See, of course it is.
Of course it is, but the
Well-
board needs to weigh in on where our priorities are. So maybe my motion is premature, but I want an understanding that this board, when we start to look at cuts, I understand what, there may be eliminations. And for instance, I know we've got 40 less kids going into the high school next year. And we have a large graduating class. That's gonna impact, I assume, the number of teachers somehow. I would assume that.
They're all going into one classroom, all 40 kids?
Are we adding teachers? Because we have 40 less kids?
So you'd have 40 less kids, but they're saying if those 40 kids were here, they'd all go into 2 slots that we could then eliminate?
No,
They're gonna be
Sue,
spread
I'm
out
I'm not
amongst
saying that.
150 staff.
We're not gonna go around, down that
No,
road.
You
I
know
think
I'm
you
not.
understand, no, you're not right, Sue.
They don't all go to one teacher.
I understand that,
Good,
I understand.
good, excellent.
I-
Oh,
I-
that's
I-
why-
And all 1,100 of our students have all gone to one teacher too, right? Okay, Mr. Boyle, could
No,
I be
they're all from
recognized,
Pollard.
please?
Well, 1 second. Kelly's had his hand up for a long time.
Thank you. I just want to be clear on what you had said. Your intention for this motion was to find out what it would look like if we did this? Is that what you just said?
No. I said, ultimately, I would like to see, have the total number
To see what it would look like?
for the budget committee.
budget committee.
We are not setting our own budget.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm asking you.
Yes.
Your intention is to see what
Yes.
it would look like?
Yes.
Might I suggest, instead of making a motion to cut them now, to affect the culture, if we were to just direct the superintendent to show us what it would look like, we could even talk about it in non-public, to see what it would look like exactly, because what if it looks horrible?
It'll look horrible.
I mean, I know it will, but,
I disagree because, again,
but then we can see
I've
what it
had
would look like.
conversations with the superintendent. I
Don't
don't
listen to
think
what I
it's
have to
gonna
say
look
then,
horrible.
just talk over me, that's all.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead, sorry, I apologize,
I'm done.
Kelly. No, I'm sorry,
I'm
I
done.
apologize.
Kelly, well, just, what you're talking about is, we had that conversation this morning, and that is, that was an idea the superintendent had, is you get, basically, have this board, direct him what it looks like with their, with less administrators, I think was that we talked about?
We talked about in the event that, I don't know what they'll do with draft 3. I prioritize draft 3. I do not know what the budget committee would do with draft 3. Our conversation was more along the lines that in the event that I was we weren't talking 12 people.
I agree.
We weren't talking 12 people.
I agree.
Right, so, in the event that they want me to weigh in further on it, then I'll obviously weigh in further, and you've made, you've helped me understand where the board sits in terms of where we should be looking in terms of priorities about people and the number, right? So, I understand that, the administrative focus on some of the reductions, I understand it. What I would want to do is whenever we have that bottom line with the resources we have, come back to you with what I think the best plan is overall. Are there reductions where we had reductions because after students all selected, maybe there were some teaching positions that through people leaving, through retirements, whatever, we didn't fill because there was some reductions in terms of selections and program of studies. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to happen between now and when staffing decisions are made. I say it every year, we make the staffing decisions are made in the spring for a reason, because we know more. It's like doing the job 3 or 4 times doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'll say, you have my word. I'm going to do the best I can with the resources you provide. We have great people. I want to hold on to all of them. So I'm hoping that it doesn't affect. I hope it feels more like whatever we end up doing in the end feels more like those 2 vacated spots and the one we don't have and the one we have open. right? And less like names of, less personal, less of a human element to it, like more of a, okay, so we have some shifting and some reorganizations to do with some of the positions, but it's, it doesn't hurt any of these great people that we have with us, you know, I mean, that's all.
I understand that, and as I said, if this motion were to pass, and it's 11 FTEs, by the time the next board sits, or by the time we know what's going on, it doesn't have to be the admin.
I know, but
it can be other people. I just want to have an understanding that.
I get it, but it's just so, it's premature, and it creates a negative impact on the climate and the culture that's not necessary, because it doesn't change the outcome. You still have that option. You don't have to do that. You don't have to play that right now, that card. It's not necessary. You know, you've made your position clear on it, I would say, but.
Mrs. Green.
But again, the rest of the board hasn't.
Mrs. Green.
The climate and the culture is to put the budgets up and up and up and up. That is the climate and culture right now.
So,
That
please.
is what we are trying to address.
Mhm.
Now, we should have learned something when we thought, we instructed Dr. Metzler to get rid of 2 administrative positions by saying we weren't gonna fill those. But somehow they got put into the budget again. Have we learned anything from that? We should have. We should have learned that unless we specifically strike out positions, that they're somehow gonna magically seep into the next budget with us unaware of it. So, we have to be very prudent here. We cannot say, oh, we'll just see where the numbers fall and we'll see what happens. And no, we have to take a position here that we are overstaffed. We are overstaffed in administration. We are overstaffed in other areas. We have to take a position and we have to deal with it now. And we cannot say, well, maybe we'll have $500,000 extra and we'll still be able to have, that vice principal perhaps. No, it cannot work like that, because we're just kicking the can down the road to other boards that are not going to be as well equipped to deal with it as we are.
What do you want to do? Point to these people and tell which one to leave?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Can we
Okay.
move the question?
Okay, wait a minute, I'll tell you, wait a minute, hang on a second here, guys. I'll tell you what's ridiculous. Anyone that, which is good, this is all part of having a board meeting, but if people think we can just rationalize and talk our way out of it, just magically coming up with monies, that doesn't make sense. That was 75 million. That was your first go. That was up from 71.5 million. That's a pretty good, that's a pretty increase. That doesn't make sense to me. One of the points I do agree with Mrs. Green on, because it doesn't make any sense to me, is this board eliminated 2 positions. They should not be in the budget.
I could ask for 10 more.
I was going to say, he can ask
It's a
for whatever he
proposal,
wants.
Brian. We
Oh,
talked
okay,
about this.
okay,
Come on, let's
okay,
not make this look
okay.
like Donna's little secret
No, no,
game
no,
of shells.
no, no,
That's not
no,
it.
no,
You asked me what I thought I needed to do the job. I'm gonna give you everything that I need, and then it's a yes or a no. It's that simple. That's what a proposal is. Why
understand.
why does everybody get so crazed about, because you asked for something? Oh my goodness, you asked for 5 interventionists. You're a crook. No, we need them.
No, I'm not.
We need them. That's why we asked for them.
Okay,
Well, how about disclosing that
Okay.
those 2 positions were
Excuse me.
put back in the budget? How
Okay.
about that?
I did.
okay.
You stopped paying
So-
attention to something other than your own blog.
Now, please, okay, guys, let's maintain some professionalism here. It's exactly, there you go, after 10, exactly right, exactly right.
We still have a motion and an amendment on the.
Amendment on the motion.
Who's made the motion?
I'd like to call the question.
It's not amended
Amendment,
yet.
I need to vote the amendment.
Vote on the amendment.
Amendment, we still haven't voted.
Can you read it back?
You should,
Can you read it back?
Yeah, she just wanted to add the year.
What?
The amendment is to make this effective in 2018.
Can I just have Kathy read it back? Is that all right?
Sure. I was just waiting for direction from the chair.
go ahead, Kathy, please.
So the motion is on the floor is to amend the motion by adding for the 18-19 school year budget. And the original motion is to cut 11.5 FTE administrators from the budget. So So you only have the amendment on the floor, which you have to vote as to whether or not you want to amend the motion, and then you can do the whole motion as amended if it passes. Does that make sense, Chairman Boyle?
Yes, it does. I'd like to amend that motion down to 9.
You gotta vote down the amendment first.
Okay, we'll vote down.
And do it.
Okay.
And do your own amendment.
We need to vote the amendment to the motion
Then you
first.
can amend it again, once it's amended. Once the
Not two
motion is
amendments.
amended. Right.
Okay, so the amendment right now is,
That just specifies the year right now.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
not making it effective it's making it effectively the
Your
next.
first, your first vote is is just to specify
just the
the
date.
year in which Dr. Farrow was talking about.
Yes.
That's it.
okay, all those in favor of of the year? Aye.
Aye.
5. Okay.
Opposed?
Opposed. 5 for, 4 against.
Wait, or? No, it's 5-3
And abstained?
and 1 abstention.
Can I?
Right.
Who abstained?
See,
Danny?
Okay.
So Peter, Sue, and who was the third? Sally, thank you.
So now the year's on there.
So now, the motion as amended is to cut 11.5 FTE administrators from the 18-19 school year budget. That's now your motion on the floor. Now you can amend it if you are inclined.
I'd like to amend that number to 9. No seconds? So-
I'd like to just, oh, never mind. Somebody second.
I'll second for discussion, and I'd like to ask a question. So, the first was kind of a faith-based budgetary thing. Now it's amended down to a lower faith-based budgetary thing, I believe. What's the rationale from 11.5 to 9? I haven't heard any. I didn't hear any really understandable one for the 11.5, but can you have a go at the 9?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. Of the 9, there are 2 vacant. There's 1, there were 2 that, as far as I'm concerned, not even there, they're voted against. 1 is vacant. And I know there is another 2 that are going to be combined, jobs going to be combined. So we're talking 3 or 4 net people, which jobs were not here 5 or 6 years ago. That's my record.
So that limits it to the deans.
That's right.
No, there's also there's some principles, so. But
There's some
again, how the superintendent fills those, there could be 5 deans remaining. There could be, how he chooses to fill that, that's his call.
So now you want to go down to 9 from 11.
11 and a half, or was 12, from what I gather.
But we have to take it on faith that there's gonna be 2 positions merged into 1. that are
You
unknown.
can take it on faith, or it does. So you asked me, that's my rationale, and yeah, I'm basing it on this historical data in this district. So just the same way it was based on increasing positions on faith.
No.
Okay, all right. So, any rate, so you asked the question, that's my answer. And I do believe that here we are, December 7th, if something changes again, it can change, whether it goes up or down, it can change.
Somehow appropriate is Pearl Harbor Day.
There you go.
Could Kathy read the motion again?
The amendment.
The amendment.
The amendment is to amend the motion to, if I get this right, 9 FTE administrators. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well,
From the
that's just the amendment.
Yes.
And then when the whole thing is put back together, we'll have that part. Does that make sense, sir?
Yeah, no, I'm following you.
Okay, we ready?
Vote on the amendment.
Motion made, second. All those in favor?
1, 2,
Opposed?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Motion fails. Okay, now where are we? Greg?
I'm gonna make an amendment to the motion to, change it to, 5 FTEs.
Okay,
Second, for discussion purposes.
go ahead. Go ahead, Sue. You second for discussion?
I did second it. Anyone can I don't
Oh,
know
I'm
if it's
sorry.
discussion.
Okay.
Just-
I just think we've we've recognized a lot of the, kind of the job description that you're talking about being not filled, and maybe if you wanna call a special meeting and meet again next week, or talk about the remainder. But I think tonight, with all the discussion that we went over and kinda went back and forth on, this might be, a good vote for tonight, and then if anything new comes up, or,
Okay. Motion made and second. Are we ready to take it a vote? All those in favor of Greg's motion?
1, 2, 3.
Opposed? Motion fails.
I'm sorry, was proposed the remaining
I'm sorry?
5, 6.
Six, I think it was 6 opposed.
3, 6, 0, correct? Sorry, I was writing, I was looking down.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, or an amendment, that we decrease the FTE, the administration FTEs by 3.
By 3 or 2, 3?
By 3.
So you're to 8.5, just to make sure, okay.
Oh, no, he's saying like 3, right? You're not saying,
Why?
Kim's taking that to mean 8.5, you
But
mean
they'd be-
3.
You mean down to 3, that you don't.
Down
have
to 3.
You remove.
Down to 3.
Not reduce it
I'm
by
sorry,
3.
down to 3.
Down to 3.
Yeah, not,
The 3 open positions.
second.
Okay. All those in favor of that motion, signify by aye. Opposed? That fails. Okay, we're struggling here.
Brian, if I can make a point,
Please.
it might help the group, because it doesn't seem like you agree. It's clear that this number, right now it's 69.6. Where they go to will have a factor, and this is going to be a factor in that. And like I said earlier, it's a little premature, and we can't even agree on 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12, 15. So it obviously is going to include something. And we'll know more after the 13th. How much more, I don't know, because we don't know if that's their last meeting. They may meet again, and they may meet 10 more times for all I know, but, I think the bottom line is, I think it's going to be a more conservative number than it has been. Is that fair to say? Is that,
Oh,
yeah, so I
agree
think that,
totally with that.
yeah, so, and we're gonna have to make those numbers work.
Okay.
So, whether, if we can't we're not gonna get it done tonight. It's
It
10:30,
looks that
and you
way,
have
yeah.
your default budget to look at.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I know there's going to be work, and it's going to be a more conservative number, and some of this discussion has to be embedded in the decisions that are made in draft 3, or if they ask us for draft 3, right? That's where we are. I don't know if we're gonna move much further from that tonight.
Doesn't look that way.
And it's okay. It's okay.
I agree. I agree.
You have plenty, you have more you have more opportunities, you have more options.
Absolutely.
This isn't the last meeting of the year, yeah.
No, it's not. So, okay.
Table the vote on the motion that's still on the table, which is the newly amended motion.
Oh, there's still a motion on the table that we have to
There isn't,
vote
you
on.
cleared them all, because you
What-
just got.
No,
What
no,
is-
we did not clear them all.
There isn't? What else?
There's an amended motion on the table.
11.5.
It's still the 11.5
The
for
17, 18 school year.
18, 19.
Excuse me, thank you.
Okay. We'll call for that vote.
We'll just table it until, to take recommendation, suggestion, recommendation.
I would think at this stage, I think we should table it, personally.
Oh, there's a motion on the table and I seconded it and I want it to go to a vote.
I don't remember what Robert's rules are for tabling a motion.
Okay, well, let's just
Let's
clear the.
vote it.
I was just gonna say, we'll just vote it. That makes it even easier. All those in favor of the
Amended a motion
mentioned motion, which is,
to eliminate 11.5 FTE administrators from the 18-19 school year budget.
Okay,
The motion.
thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
1, 2, 3.
Opposed? Okay. All right,
Okay, I'd like to motion that we eliminate the interventionists. As per Dr. Metzler's suggestion.
Those are not filled positions, those are new proposed positions.
Correct.
That they've been asked for.
How do you eliminate them?
We eliminate them from the budget.
How,
They're not in the budget.
they're not in the budget. That's what I guess I'm getting at. So I don't know how.
None of these,
Cut out a
Donna,
direct
this is how this works. See, none of these things are in the budget. They're all
Okay.
out.
I
so,
know, but they might go back in.
How do you eliminate something that's already out?
They might go back in. Why don't we make a motion as a board that we don't want them, that we don't want them?
You wanna talk about
No,
directly
no.
affecting the children?
I don't,
Holy crap.
I don't want
They're out
to,
already.
They're not in the budget right now.
They're out already.
yeah. Peter?
Given that we're between motions, but there's nothing been seconded here, and I think we're at the end of that discussion, I'd like to ask the chair if we could take a couple-minute break.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. It's fine,
Thank you.
no problem.
Thank you for
So I
that.
assume that's a reset.
Ron? Okay. Okay, welcome back here after we had a little bit of recess here. So, you know, it is 11:15. I'm going to skip around this agenda here so we can basically take care of some things here. I think I'm.
So we're not talking about the budget cuts and additions anymore?
Nope. There's nothing, I don't want to talk more about budgets. Not at quarter 11. Don't want to talk any more about budgets. CIP schedule was I just assume was a placeholder on the, there's really nothing to talk about, CIP? There's nothing, yeah, but there's nothing really.
No, there's no, hasn't changed, same
Yep,
number.
yep. Okay, don't think, seeing how the warrant articles are gonna put us back in the budget conversation, I think we've talked enough about the budget tonight. There's a couple of important policies, we really have to take care of here tonight.
Oh. What happened to the default budget? Wasn't that the next item?
We're not gonna, at quarter, I don't really wanna talk about this
Too late,
tonight.
yeah.
You know, it's like, again, we're not leaving here at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever, so. We clearly are not at our best after 10 o'clock at night, so I think we should all recognize this. Now, let's see, is Christy Michaud still here?
Yes, she is.
Great. Could you, please come up and give us a quick little, rest of the board here, because we just, so we can see if we can make some quick work on this. Could you give us, let's
Sure.
Paul, to give you a little,
Do you want me to make a motion first to do this, or?
Please.
What do you, okay. I'd like to make the motion that we waive second read and hold the first read for policy IMBCA. It's a brand-new policy. Community College System in New Hampshire, dual and concurrent enrollment program.
Second.
okay.
I'd like to speak to this. I know a little bit about this policy, and it doesn't have to be approved until sometime in July. I see no reason why we have to waive second reading for this. It is not urgent. The student gets reimbursed upon successful completion of the course. It is not urgent that we have this policy immediately, and there's no reason we have to waive second reading.
Okay, thanks. Chrissy, please.
Do you want to do an overview or respond to Mrs. Green? Because we do have some urgency. In my conversation with the Department of Ed this past week, they are willing to reimburse our 11th and 12th grade students who are currently involved with, they're involved with dual enrollment courses for STEM or STEM-related. Upon successful completion, they're willing to reimburse those students in January, so long as we have a policy that has been developed and approved by the school board.
Awesome.
So that would be a nice win for our 11th and 12th grade students who are involved this fall in those dual enrollment courses. Just to speak quickly to the policy, it is a new policy. We were asked not to embed this in any of our existing policies, so it is a policy that stands alone. The policy includes the specific language from the legislation that was introduced this past summer. And again, that legislation will allow New Hampshire 11th and 12th grade students to take up to 2 concurrent or dual enrollment STEM or STEM-related courses each academic year free of charge. Again, the legislation does require that we, school districts, develop and adopt a policy that would permit students residing in the district who are 11th or 12th grade to participate in this project between the New Hampshire Department of Ed and the community college system of New Hampshire.
Okay.
Once again, we have another meeting on December 21st. There's plenty of time to approve this. I am not in favor of waiving second reading. And there's also a change that I'd like to introduce to this draft policy, namely that the school board be apprised of the number of students who have successfully completed these eligible courses. And because a report has to be made to the Department of Education, and I would like that report to be presented to the school board at the time that it's submitted to the Department of Education. Also,
Was that an amendment?
Wait a minute.
No, I'm arguing for why we should not be waiving second reading, because there's discussion and changes to be made to this policy.
That's, here's what, first of all, a couple things here. The report you're referring to, that wouldn't be us, right? The school board, we're not gonna do a report.
No, we should get the report. We should get the report.
That's fine, so we can
It should
get.
say in policy that we get it.
Why, do you think?
So,
Because we get very few reports automatically.
well,
That's
here's,
a procedure, not a policy.
No, that's a policy. The board has a policy of wanting these reports to be submitted to us by policy.
well, me personally, I don't see any downside of approving this policy tonight, and if we want to make other changes in the future, we may have the changes, but I don't see any upside not to act on this.
Well, I do. It says the superintendent shall establish regulations for the programs which, you know,
okay.
I always have a problem when board policies are giving the superintendent carte blanche, and you know, the law requires a list of eligible programs. I think that the school board should be approving the courses that are eligible, and we should be getting a report every year of how many students have successfully taken them and passed them, and everything else. I just don't think that this policy is ready to go forward yet.
Okay. Kim?
I disagree. I don't think the school board needs to be apprised of this. There are currently students taking dual enrollment. That happens all the time. There are students that take courses through VLAX. You know, waiting till December 21st, we run the risk that we may not have a meeting because of inclement weather or something. I want those students to get reimbursed. I'd be happy to take another look at this later on if we need to, but I don't have any issues with this program. We don't need to vet these courses. These courses are offered at the community college system and that teachers will have to be authorized or certified by that system in order to offer these courses. I'd rather see this go forward, make sure that these students get reimbursed for the courses that they're taking right now. And
Dr. Farah.
caveat, my daughter would not be affected by this. Just not pushing it for my own personal gain here, so.
I was just going to add that our courses that would be applicable to this project are listed in our program of studies. All of our dual enrollment courses are listed.
Right.
Okay, listen, I'm gonna call for a vote on this.
Brian, you got Sue had a-
Sue?
I was just gonna agree with Dr. Farrar and say that this big, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to these kids that are going above and beyond and doing these extra classes, et cetera, that you could get some money back, or your parents get some money back. So let's go with it. We can change the policy later.
There you go.
Can I just real quick, we got notified very, very late. If you look at the letter there, it was like December 1st, so this is literally the first board meeting. Now, there's a cap on the money. All the districts got this, if they don't, we may have an advantage to getting this.
Get us in.
Getting a jump
Because,
on it.
there's a cap on the money. I think our kids will have access to probably this resource perhaps in a better way from this fall than a lot of other districts, because a lot of other districts are going to struggle getting this policy together. So I thank you for your diligence, especially in the policy committee tonight, to get this done, so thank you.
You're welcome. This, to me, I'm sorry, it's a pretty easy sell, so, listen, I'm gonna call us for a vote, so let's see if we can move this along here. All those in favor? Opposed? Sorry? Of waiving the second read, adopting this policy.
Is that all in one?
That was all in one.
Okay, thanks.
Opposed?
Thank you, this is wonderful for our students.
All right, great, thank you. What is this? Board's correspondence process, what is this?
That was,
That on the agenda.
I asked to put this on the agenda? Man, I am really losing it, wow.
Late enough, you can claim just you don't remember, and we'll skip right over it.
I hate when that happens.
I think you were gonna say that all the correspondence goes to all the school board members?
I mean, things addressed to TRSB.
Yeah, I think that's how it had been.
If that's us, I definitely wanted to do that. And any correspondence to the Timberlane School Board, clearly want to go out through all the school board members.
Okay, so we need to make a motion to instruct the superintendent to do that. because
Why-
that
why is the
isn't
superintendent?
happening.
because it only goes to,
To
I think
you.
it goes to the
Yeah,
both of us.
the motion you really want to make is to add Kathy Belcher to the TRSB
And have her
email
disseminate it.
distribution, otherwise she doesn't get them unless Brian forwards them to her.
That's fantastic.
And that's
I
a
like,
lot more work for you.
yes. Okay, I'll go for that. Make a motion to,
So I'll make a motion to add Kathy Belcher or
To TRSB.
to the TRSB,
Email
any
serve.
TRSB emails that come in and request that she forwards those to the entire board.
So anything that goes to TRSB.
Okay, now, is the expectation one at a time, or is it like, do you want them in like she gets one forwarded to the board, or in a
As they
group?
come in, or wait for,
One at a
I
time?
do it as they come in, I mean. I'll
No,
let
one
them-
at, what's easier for you?
What's easier for you? I mean, I would just think you
Okay,
just
the
forward it on.
easiest thing is to have the TRSB address just disseminate to all of us whenever there's an email, including Mrs. Belcher. So don't give her another job to do, just
reason-
have it,
Reason you don't do that, because they don't want individuals responding on behalf of the board to individual emails. If they want to send an individual email to a single board member, they can do that, or to two or three of you, but I think that's why the board got away from having all the individual, because then you had multiple people from the board responding privately to an email that was directed to the whole board. It's bad practice.
well, I agree with that. I certainly hope that wouldn't be happening.
So if it went to Kathy, and then Kathy can send it to all of you,
Yeah,
I mean, then if you respond to it, well, then you respond to it.
I don't think it's a good idea to respond to it, but I think being notified makes perfect sense to me. And that,
Could someone second that?
Yep. Okay. Motion made second. All those in favor?
what, adding,
Kathy.
Kathy?
okay.
Unanimous. Thanks. So basically, you managed to do that without even coming to the front room and do a presentation. Very nice.
It was yours.
Very nice, very nicely done.
Okay, quick administrator's report.
Please.
This past week, I'd like to, congratulate, Mike Flynn, the middle school staff. They were celebrating Computer Science Education Week. And then we had a couple of donations that I accepted because they were the $500 range. One was Amelie's meal cash donation, $500 from Arm Networks in commemoration with Computer Science Education Week. And then we had coding kits that donated from Jean Marie Ward, and if you would allow me, she wanted me to read a statement to you, if that's okay. I mean,
Okay.
those of you that know Jean Marie Ward, she's a champion for computer science and technology, and so this is a statement from donor of coding kits. In honor of Computer Science Education Week, I present a donation of 6 ultimate Let's Start coding kits to be used at the middle school. Computer science jobs are growing at twice the rate of other jobs. Software is in almost everything we do on a daily basis, from your home to your office to our national security, yet the number of college graduates is too low to meet the demand. I believe we'll be able to increase the interest in our computer science by our young men and women through mentorship programs, increasing our rigor on technology requirements in school, offering a variety of educational tools and curriculum paths, and lastly, introducing software programming to the younger grade levels. These kits provide hands-on, experiential learning and build technical literacy through interaction of hardware and software. Within minutes, students can start coding to create sound and temperature sensors, a 4-key piano, an alarm clock, memory games, DJ sound samples, and much more. Students get hand-on technical literacy by learning real programming, language, syntax, like loops and variables, and the underlying concepts of all coding languages. I hope these kits spark additional interest in programming, in particular for students who may have never considered a technical path towards programming and computer science. Diversity in the field is essential to innovation, and I hope we can, in particular, encourage more students with different skill sets to pursue it. Thank you for supporting technology education at Timberlane, and I hope that we will continue to invest and grow in our technology programs within our district. Thank you. Sincerely, Jean Marie Ward. So we
Great.
thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
How much is this donation for?
The kits are valued at $500.
Wow. Wow, great.
Thank you for that, and obviously, thank you, Jean Marie. It's great. I know the middle school had a great, it's in the middle of having a great celebration this week.
Yes,
Oh,
can
sure.
we stand there? Do you mind?
Go.
Real quick. Mr. Patterson? Yes, sir. So you guys have a way to use these in the middle school effectively?
So those could be used in our, either our computer science classes at the middle school or technology classes at the middle school. They can also be used in the STEAM classes. We've seen in the STEAM classes the eagerness to embed really, truly what STEAM is and integrate all the science, technology, engineering, art, and math, and these are just gonna add to that.
Could you use more?
We can always use more. I mean, I'm never gonna say no to more things.
I want to call. If the board allows me, I'm gonna match her donation. I'll support that. From the salary I get here.
Go for it. Oh, my guy.
I don't take it home. I don't take it home. Okay, so I'll be ordering those for you. I don't have them, obviously. I didn't
Thank
know
you.
this was
We
happening.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll accept that on behalf of the board.
Great.
It's only $500.
And
Unless you want to make it more than
And I have to
500.
follow through, or Jean Marie will kill me.
I know you got that right.
Gotta make sure that check clears.
Oh, I'm not gonna give them the money. I'm gonna buy the stuff. Does she supply the cash or the?
She brought us the kids.
She brings the kids. She actually participated this week
Got the same kits.
In the STEM inspiration?
as a volunteer, right?
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
Cool.
Awesome. So, and they do some great work, especially with getting some of our young females involved in some of our, and we'll be talking more about that with our STEAM camp later, next meeting, right?
Correct.
Not this meeting, next meeting.
Correct.
Student trip, can I, moving on, all right, thanks, Mark. Student trip, the LEAD conference, that's the Leadership Experience and Development. Student trip has been vetted by SLT. More information is included in your packet. It's a trip to Washington DC, and it's scheduled for January 24th through the 28th. The purpose of this trip is to provide a comprehensive leadership training to students and advisors of the National Honor Society, the National Junior Honor Society, and the National Student Council. We're requesting the 2 days off from school, which will be January 25th and 26th. Currently, we have 4 students and 2 adults attending, and we need action for you to allow them to miss those 2 days of school.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you. Finally, I mentioned this earlier, and so I'm asking the board to consider a formal action on this. I'm asking you, in the administrator contracts, they have a January 1st deadline if they are eligible for any Timberlane retirement benefits. And so the current deadline is to notify the district and receive a retirement incentive is January 1st. I'm going to ask that you consider moving that to April 1st for this school year, based on the conversation tonight, just based on the conversations we've had in terms of administrators, to incentivize administrators that are considering whether or not to retire. That gives them some more time to work with HR, to work with us, and to see if their retirement package is something that is attractive to them. So I'm going to ask you to consider that deadline if you would.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion?
It makes it hard to do the budgeting. If there's a retirement benefits liability, the budget can still be adjusted for next year to incorporate that liability, because presumably that's money paid in the next fiscal year. So I think this puts us in an uncomfortable position. There's a reason we have a rule for January 1st, and I think we should stick to it.
Well, your
It's
budget,
opening us up to a lot of unfunded liability currently.
I think your budget is pretty much gonna be,
No, if they tell us in April that they're gonna retire, it's too late to fix the budget. If they tell us January 1st, we can adjust the budget to make our retirement, adjustment.
If I could, every year since I've been here, with the exception of last year where they made an adjustment at the public hearing, the budget was finalized before anybody retired. Most of these people told us the last week of December, and the budget was already set. So it's a moot point. The date's a moot point. It moves, and this budget was for this year. One would argue these would be expenses incurred in this particular year because they retired, right? So,
They get paid in the next fiscal year.
well, I mean, there are adjustments that are made, when they're paid, and now we're getting into what line they count, when,
Come out of this budget.
come out of this budget.
18 budget, not the budget for planning. They're retiring now, this year.
If they retire at the end of June, that puts them into the next fiscal year for the payment, does it not?
They get paid before July 1st, I believe, but it is,
Yes, by the contract. It's
thank you. Oh, there it is. They're paid before July 1st, so it would have to come out of this year.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
So it's a good point. I think the January 1st was really more for planning, and we do the staffing in the spring, so it's not, I just think giving people more time when you have budget concerns, and we've done that in the past with teachers and other people. It's worked out well. It just gives them a little more time, because they have to meet with Nancy. There's a lot that goes into retiring, if any of you have gone through that. Not yet. You know, right? There's a lot of, Social Security and all those things, so.
And Christmas, you're deciding when you're
Kim?
I just know, because I'm sitting here with a legal letter in front of me, is that in the conversation with the lawyer, that a lot of, they thought that date was probably gonna be October 1, not January 1, so I think ours is pretty late, just kind of throwing it out there. A lot of
Well,
districts, it's.
and some places go by your birth date, which is a whole other thing.
You can retire on your birthday.
Yeah, because it's your years of service, and yeah. But I'm just telling you, I don't feel like there's any risk. I just think we're offering people more time, and it's 90 more days, we'll be fine. But you do what you want. I just wanted you to consider that, because that may help people with their decision. Otherwise, you just stay another year.
Well, again.
Not that that's a
well,
bad thing. but-
Me and Lloyd, I don't really think you're talking a lot of people. So I don't really, as far as I'm concerned, I personally have no problem extending it.
Where are we? Do you have a motion?
So is,
Yeah, we do.
so this discussion is over?
I mean, are we talking 5 people, 10 people, 20? I mean, I
We
just
could be
have no-
talking single digits, probably.
I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I
And-
have no idea what numbers we're talking.
I would say there's probably single digits of people that are actually thinking about it, but then sometimes I have to come back to the board because something happens in someone's life between now and whenever, and I ask you to waive the date because they weren't planning on retiring, but now they have to because of some life-altering event, and you've always been great, you've always supported that, no matter what group it was. It could be TSSU, TTA, unaffiliated, or an administrator, you've always been good.
Okay, motion made and second. All those in favor of setting the date? Against?
One, two, three.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, on behalf of anybody that's thinking about it, thank you very much for giving them 90 more days to think about it. Personnel report, you had asked about this on the 30th of, and lo and behold, three have come in. So we have retirement professional staff, 3 outstanding educators, and many of you know them personally. One is Nancy Gervino, a science teacher at the middle school. She's been with us for 13 years. Judith
Gratian.
thank you. I apologize, Judith, yeah. Typically Kathy spells these out phonetically, so I don't screw them up.
Yeah.
But, so I apologize to Judith. She's a 7th grade math teacher. She's been with us for 12 years. And Miriam Trisdale, she's a speech and language pathologist, and she's been with the district for 21 years. So I'd ask for a motion to accept their retirements. Nope.
Oh, you do an I'll second.
Okay. I motion.
A second. With regrets, those are 3 really great people.
Yes, they are.
All those in favor of accepting the retirements? Unanimous.
Excellent. That was the personnel report.
Does that mean we're on the hunt for 2 speech people now? Awesome.
And science person, which is.
Well,
those are
yeah, I
tough
figured
categories.
that.
These are all,
Math,
these are,
science.
just for the, these are all critical shortage areas.
Okay.
So they're hard to find. And these, the 3, really, really good at what they do.
Okay. Committee reports. I can't think of, nothing exciting in committee reports, just let's see. The strategic
We
plan
had
was.
strategic planning, and we are, all the community forums were done, all the staff teacher forums were done. We are now moving into, we formed 3 subcommittees to look at the 3 different areas: facilities, academics, and culture and climate. And those groups will meet at least 2 to 3 times, and then the committee will come back together. So we hope to have a draft of the plan, I think, by April.
So those were the 3 top?
Those are the three
Top out of all
areas.
that stuff.
Well, no, those were already determined before we went in. Now we're
Right.
gonna look underneath those and say, okay, so the 21st century learner, now we have to develop our goals underneath those, and then
Okay.
a means to get to those within the next 5 years, so that's
And
those.
how many people showed up at the second one in Sandow?
I think there were 33 community and 5 staff, right? If I remember the number correctly.
Okay.
Thank you.
And in policy, we did a couple policies. In fact, we just rushed one through here tonight, so. Any other committee reports that, okay? Okay. Reports of the school board.
We don't have a budget committee report?
Oh, budget committee report, sorry.
Well, the budget committee decided that they were going to start at 69.6. They wanted some numbers from Attorney Dowd on staffing costs and stuff like that he is supposed to be coming back to us with, right, Jeff? Yeah. They decided unanimously to put the sports back in, that is not a part of the cuts that will be made at all, those 3 for the 50,000. Aside from that, that's really it. There was just discussion about that pretty much the whole time.
Kim?
Wasn't there a discussion about prioritizing the cuts within the budget?
Yeah, I sent it out to you guys. You all got it.
I know, but this is the discussion of the committee.
I don't understand. I didn't do the prioritization.
No, I understand.
But you got it,
But
right?
it was part of the committee. I mean, I think it was an important part, which kind of drove this
We
conversation.
directed Jeff to ask the superintendent to prioritize the cuts that you received as soon as I got it.
I'm just, I just, and then, can you explain a little bit on the voting? Like, part of the budget committee wants to start at 69.
Mm-hmm.
But But you didn't feel that, given that the school board had already come
No,
in?
I wanted to start at 72 and go down. They wanted to start at 69 and go up. It wasn't a final thing. It's not the number that the budget was being voted on, right?
No, that's true.
So
I
it's just a starting point. I don't understand.
I guess, it's becoming kind of apparent to me that there's definitely differences among this board as to where this budget is bottom line. I don't, and, I'll be frank, I don't feel that you're in agreement with the majority of this board.
Because I wanted to start at 72 and not 69. I don't
Well,
understand that.
that's part of it, because looking at how that board voted along the same lines as they did when the decision was made to come in at that 69 number.
Okay.
So that's telling me that you're
Did we take a vote yet to get a consensus of what we're doing? No?
Well, we took a vote to go to 70.
We took a
added
vote to
the
go
1
to
million
70.
more, so they, and we
But
passed
neither of that
on.
number didn't fall in there. It was 69 and 72, so,
and you're not in agreement with the 70, correct?
no, I wasn't. I don't think so. I don't remember.
And
I
you're
don't
not
think
in agreement with the 69. What is your, this is my concern. What is your budget number that you're comfortable with, because you're representing
I
the
don't have one.
board.
That's
You have
right.
no
The
number.
board hasn't given me a number yet.
Yes, we have.
What'd you do? What'd you give me for a number?
Well, this is my concern about having you represent us. on the
70 and
budget committee.
change.
What was the number?
You gotta
It
give me
was
a number.
70,
Gave you the
We
number.
voted 70.
We voted on it the last
70.
time.
You voted to ask him to come back. Yes, you did, because I tried to clarify it. You voted to ask him to come back with a $70 million budget.
Okay.
And I tried to clarify, do you guys want this to go to budget? You all said no. I absolutely did that. 100%, because I knew that this was going to come up. If you want me to represent a number, you need to put one out there and vote on it. That's the way it works. That's why we take votes, right?
We did.
Did we not do that?
We took a vote in the library.
The superintendent to come back at 70. You absolutely did.
70.6.
70.8.
Okay,
Yeah,
70.
we added $1 million.
Right.
This-
Whatever
this
the million
board-
was, right.
Yeah, this board took a vote, and we increased it by $1 million.
Right.
$70.5 million.
We carried that information to the budget committee.
Oh, yeah.
And they went, okay, we're gonna start at 69. Is
That's
that what
right.
I'm
They
understanding?
completely just said, okay, that's what
Just a
you guys want,
recommendation.
And that's what
and
they
moved
said.
on.
They said,
They said they would take it under
thank you, we
advisement.
took
Yeah.
it under advisement.
That's what they said to us.
Oh, I know what,
So looking at the minutes then from the last time, then there's a disconnect here. Because the minutes, and it was unclear in this budget, I heard what you were saying. There's a motion here in the minutes that says, Mrs. Sherman motioned to direct the superintendent and business administrator to produce a third draft budget of 75,99955. So where are we with the third draft? I'm a little, I'm not trying to throw swords, I'm trying to figure this out
But
here.
the
got-
budget committee ignored us.
The budget committee took it under advisement. See, here's what my dilemma is, and I certainly am perfectly capable and fine of putting together whatever numbers you want, but I can't have the school board telling me to do something and the budget committee telling me to do something different. Now, this is the same conversation again. I was as surprised, I thought they would come up with a number, at least your number.
Right.
I thought that maybe that would be draft 3. I don't know, but that's not it. They just said, no, we're not doing a draft 3. Well, Jeff's still here. I don't know if he's still here. They just basically said, prioritize the list, and we'll let you know what the number's going to be. Okay. So I think your expectation was that they would at least go to your number that you gave them, and they didn't. They stayed at 69.6.
Right.
So if you're asking me, if you said, okay, what's $1 million, what would you put $1 million back in? They just took it under advisement. I mean, that may happen eventually. That would be the third draft. I mean, they're not even asking me to do a third draft.
Right.
So,
They're at 69.6 on the second draft, and they're asking you to come in on the third draft at 69.6.
no,
there's no third draft.
They're gonna,
No
they
third draft.
they asked us to prioritize this list.
They asked you to
and then
prioritize.
my understanding was, and then I don't wanna say, and they're gonna pick off, they asked us to look, and they're gonna pick off this list, and they're gonna move it to a number that they're comfortable with, whatever that number is. And whether they thought your number was too high or too low, I don't know. There's different inferences you could draw from that. I don't know. I listened to the conversation because I was not here, I was upstairs. And it went from 72.2 to 72 to, we don't need a number, why don't we say up to a number, not to exceed? You know, they went all the way around kind of the bush, in a sense, and then they came up with that. That's what they wanted to do. So my understanding was they think, and remember we talked, they think they're going to pick stuff off of this and then vote on a final number on the 13th of December.
Okay, so Dan is our rep to the budget committee. He needs to know what this board's number is that they're willing to settle on. Is that not
So
correct?
I would rather you gave me a yes or no on this list,
On what?
On
a
what
cut list.
On the cut list.
We just,
Because that will determine, right? That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna be like, all right, for
we just
instance.
tried to do that, Dan, for.
And that's that one thing. So now what, the board voted no, right? So then I'll vote no. But now say the pack wall, nobody wants to do the pack wall. You guys say, let's not do the pack wall, we vote on it. Now I'm gonna say, we're not doing the pack wall because the school board doesn't wanna do the pack wall, right?
Right, you carry that message.
I wanted to go through other things on this list. We don't have time or we don't want to
Well-
tonight, and I'm fine with that.
And this is where it
I'm
gets.
not fine with that.
But this is where it gets kind of silly. If whatever bottom number they give you, if you want to do the pack wall, you're going to do the pack wall, right?
Well,
You're going to spend it however you want.
Because they can't tell us how to spend it.
So why are we getting into them telling you how you're going to spend it? That's not their job.
And that's,
I know that's your point, but that's my point. Is
this is my
it's
point too.
it's-
That's my
yeah.
point.
I know that's your
Okay.
point.
But my point is that this board needs to somehow be able to articulate through the budget rep what this board's number is, correct?
The number.
The
Yeah,
number.
a ballpark where you want to see your recommendation of where you'd like to see them.
Yes.
Sure, I'd like that
I
too.
thought it was,
I thought it was 70.5.
75.99. Apparently,
I thought we added the million.
75.99,955.
But the budget committee didn't do it.
Yeah, I know they didn't,
They didn't move it at all. So as we speak, it's at 69.6.
I know.
So at some point, he'll have an opportunity to do that, but he didn't have, I don't think he had the opportunity.
No, he didn't, but I want it understood that that is the number above which the school board and you as the school board rep should not be going above that on a vote. It
So
should
on
be-
individual stuff,
No.
or a
on
total number.
on the
Well, so that's
total
my
number.
question, because they're gonna go through
And
and
this-
individually.
Yeah, but no, it's being
pick things.
misrepresented because they didn't really ever say a number. They said, we'll start at 72 and we'll work our way down. They never really said a number.
No.
That was like, and
I get that, but we need to say a number, because if we don't say a number, then Dan can vote whatever number he wants as our board representative.
So, but here's my question. So as you guys pick a number, say it's 70 million,
Yeah.
okay? Just say it is. How do I vote when they start going through this?
Because you think that's what they're gonna do.
That's what they're gonna do.
they shouldn't be going through that. They should just be
I'm-
going to a number.
I'm just asking, so I have clarification, how you want me to vote if they start going through this?
You should encourage them to not go through that. to just
I-
come up with a
I
number.
was just gonna
Absolutely
say,
will.
that document, there's almost nothing on
It's
that document.
prioritized
that
now,
I agree with.
which is what they asked for. So they're obviously gonna use this list because they prioritized it, right? I mean, can we agree on that? So how am I supposed to vote on this? You want me to vote no on everything?
No,
I wouldn't vote on
if
it.
it were me,
That's-
I
I
wouldn't
think
vote
I
on
would
it.
abstain from those votes
I
and
wouldn't
would
vote
wait
on it.
till the final number comes in and vote on whatever number this board has decided is the final budget number.
That-
And I'm just throwing that out there, I'm not,
Well, and
does
if
that
I-
make sense?
It does,
Well-
but there's theory and reality. The theory is they think that they're putting certain things in. The reality is,
They're not.
just let's say they put all the people back in, and then they gave you the money, and you said, thanks for that. We're doing this.
We're gonna
Right.
take out.
We're gonna do all the CIP stuff. We're not doing what you.
Right.
That's your job, and their job is the number. And what's happened here is it's cross-pollinated. We got the school board trying to do the budget committee trying to do the school board. And you have the ultimate, you're gonna spend it.
I would do what Kim suggests as well, by the way, if I were the rep. I would
What's that?
abstain.
Abstain.
Abstain from all
Abstain
these, and
on everything.
On the individual items.
This board hasn't,
If they do that.
hasn't blessed anything
we have not blessed any number.
on that, well,
On the list.
that list.
No, we haven't.
So to me,
Well, except,
They could have directed me to come back to you and have you prioritize the list, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, but-
They asked me to
Well-
prioritize the list. I
in
mean,
answer to Dan's question, as far as I'm concerned, that there's several things in that list this board has not addressed it, so why vote on it? Just abstain. I think the only thing that was addressed was possibly athletics, so it was under 50,000, so the rest, I just let them do their thing.
Okay.
Actually, no, I don't think.
The admins were addressed.
Actually, I spoke on the athletics.
spoke
We didn't
on
vote.
behalf of that,
We didn't vote.
correct.
That's right.
They already
I
took
was,
care of that.
I was corrected by board members. That's, I guess.
They took care of that.
That's it. So I was like very confident that I could,
the ice rink stuff.
that I could
team
get myself plus 4 other people to vote for this. Yes, and I received emails from a couple of board members telling me not to do that again, so.
Not me, by the
It
way.
wasn't you, by the way, you're right. So it's okay. It's all right. 'Cause, yeah, okay, whatever. So, okay. So again, Dan, as far as I'm concerned, and unless some board disagrees with me, I don't, that list is, that was superintendent's chart at 5.5 million. That was one way of looking at it, 5 million, and it's not really, it's one of 100 ways of looking at it. That's really not the viewpoint of the board, so it's up to the budget committee to do their thing, knock yourself out.
Okay, but my understanding looking at this is that our board right now is saying, we do not want this budget to go above 75.99. Is that not correct?
Oh, that
You
was
mean
that
7,
vote.
you mean 70, are we saying?
70
This
million.
was the motion
Yes.
that Sue made last time.
Yes,
You added $1 million to the
We added
bottom
$1
line
million.
that they
That's correct.
directed me to come back with.
correct.
Right, just to get a conversation going, because we weren't
That's right.
moving very far
That's
that
right.
night, so.
And in
So it
com-
wasn't a hard, fast number that we don't ever wanna go above.
Doesn't
That's
mean we
not what
might
voted
wanna
on.
consider something out when we hear what they've got.
That's right.
I can assure you that the chair of the budget committee knows that that motion was made and he understands that that's your number and they took it under advisement, correct?
Oh, he
Like,
knows, yeah.
they know.
Absolutely.
They don't all agree, and obviously that's why we're 6-4, 5-5, 4-6 on all these votes. I mean, they're all kind of, they don't all agree on the process, they don't all agree on,
No, I know.
that's
I
what's
know.
complicated things a little bit, but we'll get it straightened out,
Yeah, we will,
straightened out, but
I'm sure.
that's your number as we speak.
That is our number as we speak.
And it's, yeah. Okay. So,
So what if they come back? I'm sorry, it's almost tomorrow. So what if they come back and say, you know what, we've worked it all out and we've decided 71.8. That's what we're going with. We're gonna do what with that? Vote again and say, we either say yes to 71.8,
that's what I think we should do, yeah.
or it's gotta be 70.5989. We could do that too, but I'd like to hear what they come up with.
Okay.
We should wait till they do.
And they're gonna come up with a number, and if
Bring
they
it
do the
back to
draft themselves, they do the draft themselves and said, this is how we came up with the number.
Yeah.
And then they approve the number. And how you spend the number doesn't have anything to do with how they came up with it. Does that make sense? Whatever rationale they use to get to a number, you can say, hey, thanks. Now you actually prioritize how to spend it.
Okay.
That's never been different, that's always been the way it is.
It's like whatever number we come back to them with, they can say, great, thanks.
Well,
and then they can just
wait a
give us
second.
number.
So,
Well,
just so we're clear,
no, no,
there may
no.
not be any coming back to them.
No, I don't think it will be.
We have one more meeting.
I'll be
The
surprised at
meeting,
that.
huh?
I'll be surprised if you guys wrap that up in one meeting.
Well, here's the problem. The next meeting is on December 28th, which is during the holiday vacation.
Okay?
It's already concerns that we're not gonna even have enough for a quorum. We have to set it up by January 4th? Is that what you said, Jeff?
Oh, the hearing.
The hearing.
Hearing, yeah, the hearing is,
We're
public
not gonna
hearing
have any time.
is January 4th, yeah.
That's gonna be it.
So the number they give us is
So
we can either
it's
like it or
quite
not like it.
possible that we're gonna have a number next meeting. I'm not saying it's going to, but there's a real possibility it could be. And to your point, Kim, inclement weather. We don't, you know what I mean? We have no idea. Look at what happened when we voted, you know? So there's a real possibility that this meeting next week, they're gonna come up with a real number.
So I'd just like to say that we work on a budget and we present a budget to the public. And to hold it in complete disregard and say the school board can spend it however we like is wrong. It's wrong. We have a budget. We're supposed to be adhering to the budget. And when we don't adhere to the budget, we are supposed to be taking a vote to vary from the budget. So this idea is that the budget committee just gives us a big fat number and then we go and do whatever we want with it is wrong.
What do you mean it's wrong?
Oh,
That's how it works. Well,
That's how
basically,
it's
they
worked
approve a number.
forever.
They approve a number.
They approve a budget. They
approve a
approve
budget.
a budget.
Okay.
We bring a budget to public
Okay.
hearing, the public approves a budget, and we are supposed to abide by that budget.
We don't approve it.
Okay, and
The public
when,
doesn't
what
vote
makes
it.
you think we don't?
It's just presented to them at
It's
public
just
hearing.
presented
Did you say the public approves it at the public hearing?
No, they don't.
No, what they do is they vote it. When they
So-
vote, they're
The
voting
public
on
doesn't
a
vote at the
budget.
public hearing.
They're voting on the bottom line.
It's bottom line budget.
That's
The
what's on
board,
the
school board
ballot.
has authority to spend it however they want.
Look, the budget goes to ballot. It
Correct.
goes
It
to
doesn't go
ballot
in, you know,
as a
the
budget.
truck,
The
the
number, not what we
car,
spent it on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
6 teachers, it doesn't go that way, it goes as one bottom line. And it's not our budget at the public hearing, it's the budget committee's.
Yes, but it could be ours as well.
Well, again, so I don't understand the point you're making here, Donna, that basically we are,
The point
they
is that-
approve a budget and
Back around again.
we do it. We run it, we run the
Point
school.
is that we should not hold the budget in complete contempt and say we can just spend it however we want. Because that's certainly what I'm hearing. We
No,
can spend it however we want.
No,
If the budget committee takes out
no,
all, X number of things, it doesn't matter, we can
No.
just put it back in.
no,
Yes, that's what I'm hearing.
I'm all set, don't worry about it.
okay.
So you guys want 70.5, anything higher, I'm voting against it. That's what you're saying, I mean,
599,
That's what I'm saying.
70.5.
so do we need to do a vote and have a discussion about it? I mean, that's, I got one more meeting.
Not to exceed,
Or give me, yeah, I don't know.
range. In fact, we've done that in years past. We'd give them a range and back Rick Blair would go and come back in,
Yeah.
correct? And he'd come back in and say, okay, you know, you didn't want it to exceed this number, but they've got this number, and we'd say, okay.
Right.
It's not our budget, so we get it in our hands to spend.
Well,
So do we wanna do that?
I
Give a-
do. I do.
okay.
I want to make a motion that our rep does not vote a budget above what we voted on at our last meeting, which was 75,99955.
70,599,000.
955.
I'll second that.
Second? 11:30?
I offer an amendment to, increase that to $72,850,000 even.
Second?
All those in favor of the amended motion?
No discussion?
Okay, discussion.
Any discussion?
Would that give me a range? I guess it would give me a range, right?
To go above
You have to
seventy-two.
go above that.
Yeah.
Yeah, NTE.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And that seems to be what is required to run this district in that year, in 2018-19.
So are you suggesting the amendment as a range from no higher than 70,
Correct.
whatever you just said?
72.8?
72.85.
That's part of the first motion, which was a vote on a budget above that, so that's exactly the intent of it, if he's amending it the way that he did.
I think a range is important, I just,
Okay, you've had discussion, all those in favor of
Yeah,
the,
look.
The-
7:30 at night, and I have to go
Yeah.
through Brian, right?
trying to
Should
ask,
we read the motion again?
The motion is to amend the original motion that the school board rep not vote on a budget above, the new amended amount would be 72,850,000.
No, not vote in favor of. I think not vote in favor of.
but no vote in favor of it.
Okay, yeah.
Regardless of what it is, I understand the intent.
Favor of a budget above. Okay, it's clarified.
It gives them some range, I just think it gives
So you
a
have
little ability and see what happens.
okay, all those in favor of Peter's motion?
Amendment?
I'm sorry, Peter's amendment,
1, 2, 3, 4.
opposed?
1, 2,
Just
3,
not ready.
4,
Abstentions?
and 1.
Okay,
So,
So that failed, so now we're back to not to go above 70.5. Let's just round it off, 70,600,000.
all those in favor of the original motion? Aye. Opposed?
oh, I'm sorry, can you hold
It
it
was
for a
Kim,
second?
Brian, Donna, and Stephanie.
4,
That was,
Okay, we try this again here? Want to try this again? All those in favor of the motion?
1, 2, 3, 4, yeah.
Opposed?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Abstentions?
So that failed.
Okay,
We can either go home or I'll throw another one out. Your choice, Mr. Chair.
yeah, me too. I just wouldn't go near it.
But if next week is the end of it,
This is the end.
what are we gonna do?
As, in terms of our input into the budget committee's budget, that's all we're doing, is giving one vote
Giving
out
Danny
of
one
10.
more chance to say, look, they voted and they
This.
gave me a little bit of wiggle room, or they gave me
I'm
this.
sorry, I thought that we already did that,
No, we didn't. We vote, it's
Last
all,
week.
everything
That's what I
failed.
thought too.
But
I thought last week we did that. I don't
They
understand why
ignored
we're
that.
exercising ourselves over
But we're
this.
trying to give Danny an opportunity to hear what we're saying and vote and represent this board's decision. Because that's not the motion I made in the minutes. That's right.
Right, yeah.
So now we're trying to give him a direction, right? At 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
Well,
Chairman, you thought there's definitely gonna be a meeting, you sounded pretty confident about that, there could be a,
I'm not their board.
right,
their
but
board,
you were pretty confident.
Don't know, I have no idea. The guy on the board says no.
Well, I mean,
So, Greg, I wouldn't bet on that horse.
I don't know.
of there not being one or of the being?
Of there being one. I wouldn't bet.
That's what I'm not betting
I would
on
not
either.
I would not make that bet.
So you think the
Like I
next
told
meeting
you,
could be
this board,
Yeah.
if this board has to meet, I know the process to call a special meeting about something, and that's
I'm
what we're gonna
just
do.
not, I have
So
to,
I can't
just feel
speak
like
for
we're
budget.
voting on something that they're gonna work through. And I'm not, it's just,
I need a position.
I know, I agree,
It's gonna-
I
it's no
agree.
position.
But it's 11:35 at night and we're gonna vote
So how you gonna do it then?
number right now, which I wish we did it 3 hours ago.
So if we don't vote at all, he'll have no position. And he'll have to, you might as well not even go to the meeting. I mean,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
or just, I don't know. I don't know what to advise you if we don't give him something to work with.
Look, at-
and even if you give them a number that,
I'll make a
that's,
motion, 71 million.
I'll second that. 71 flat, is that what you're saying,
Flat.
kiddo?
and I offer an amendment to 72.5, 72,500,000.
Do we have a second on that one?
I second it.
Who's second?
My motion.
Keep going.
It's getting late, so I'm having a hard time following.
It's almost getting early.
Okay, and so then Peter, I know, really? And so
Yeah,
Peter, you
I'm offering an
motioned
amendment to
discuss?
72,500,000.
71,500?
72,500,000.
Is anyone, is
it's late.
there a
And
second
I don't
for,
enunciate well.
is there a second for Peter's motion?
I'll say it.
Kelly, okay. All's in favor of Peter's motion?
Greg wanted some discussion.
Greg?
No, I just wanna say, Sue, I appreciate you compromising and trying to find a solution, so.
Trying
I'm
to
gonna-
get something
Yeah,
going
I'm gonna
here.
back Sue's, I'm glad you
Okay,
seconded that.
well, okay. Again, all those in favor of Peter's motion?
1, 2, 3, 4,
Okay, opposed?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, back to the original motion.
Of what, 71?
71. All those in favor of 71 million?
The vote, hold on.
Okay, Jesus Christ.
Something.
Opposed?
I missed that complete vote.
it was Sue, Brian,
Me.
Kim, Greg,
Greg.
and Stephanie.
That's 5, okay, and then,
And the opposed was Dan, Donna, Peter, and Kelly.
yeah,
Abstention?
No, that was 5, that was 9.
5-4, okay, so it failed.
So he has a number.
he's gonna,
Nope, I got a number, it didn't fail.
gonna vote on 71,000.
Oh, he has a number, 71.
Who voted for it?
Passed.
Who voted for it?
Sue, you, Kim, Greg, and Stephanie.
Oh, right,
I got a number.
71K, I'm, K.
71.
Million, sorry.
71 million.
71
So
Okay,
we gave him an extra
That
couple
isn't-
bucks
that
to
isn't
play
bad.
with.
there you go.
That doesn't even get me.
Motion to adjourn.
We be gone.